President Trump was right in being quite firm and aggressive with this?
Well, I think it certainly did not deter President Zelensky from going back to the table to actually meet with both the U.S. as well as with Russia. And we now know that he will be at this meeting next week. And even after that debacle in the Oval Office, President Zelensky was still clear that he wanted to try to mend relations with the United States, specifically with President Trump, to actually get a deal specifically on minerals. And so I think Donald Trump will be very happy that this is now back on track and it's actually moving forward.
I mean, does President Zelensky of Ukraine have a choice in this, really? Intelligence has been stopped being shared with Ukraine, and military aid, US military aid, has been stopped going into Ukraine. I mean, he has to come to the table. He's almost been forced to, hasn't he?
Well, yes, that's true. And we know that even after many European nations have spoken up about providing support, they simply cannot provide the support that the United States has. And quite frankly, we have not seen to date that they're willing to actually do more than what the United States has provided so far. But even with Donald Trump actually agreeing to meet with President Zelensky and now saying that this deal is back on track, he still has yet to actually offer tangible security guarantees to Ukraine at this point. And so it still remains to be seen what exactly President Zelensky and Ukraine is actually getting from its relationship with the United States.
Yeah, but it's fascinating to watch all this unfold because obviously that's all happening in the White House and directly with Zelensky. We just heard a clip of Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, I mean, basically saying Europe needs to knuckle down and do what Donald Trump is telling them to do. I mean, his impact seems to be really felt across the continent here.
Well, actually, I think Donald Trump is actually spot on about this. We do see you've got Russia that's knocking on Europe's door. And quite frankly, Europe is powerless to do anything because for so long they have actually been dependent on the United States. And so I think Donald Trump is actually right. Europe needs to do more, and they should. But again, the question is, what can they do? And then, of course, how quickly can they actually ramp up?
When do you think we're going to hear about the demands being made of Russia in all of this? Because we're hearing demands on Ukraine and this minerals deal, and Europe's been asked to up their defence spending. But we're not hearing a lot of what President Trump is expecting from Putin in all of this.
Very, very good question. What we do know, even with the seized Russian assets, which exceed $200 billion, even now, there does not appear to be much of an appetite to actually just take those assets. Of course, there's been this argument that might somehow be illegal or go against international law. But we do know that French President Emmanuel Macron is actually now open to that idea. But you're right. I think there does need to be greater accountability, and it hasn't been so far. And of course, that's music to Vladimir Putin's ears at this point.
OK, Eric, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as Christians across the world observe Lent, we're going to be bringing you daily reflections from ministers around the United Kingdom. Here's today's message.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
I wonder if you've ever had to say sorry to someone. Really say sorry. Not a faux apology of, I'm sorry if you were hurt by what I said or did, but a real, heartfelt, honest apology. I got it wrong. I did some things I shouldn't have done. I said some things I shouldn't have said. I am truly sorry. Lent invites us to consider the practice of confession, which is saying sorry to God. We might find that a strange concept. Why should I say sorry to God? Why should God be upset with me? But for ancient people, it wasn't strange at all. The idea that God, or the gods, might have expectations of us, standards for us to live up to, was very familiar. Confession was a normal part of the human experience. In the Christian tradition, the standard God has is simply one word: love. God is love. Therefore, all that we do that is unloving towards ourselves, other people, and our planet puts us in conflict with the God who is love. Perhaps putting that right begins with, as it often does, saying sorry. God, I've not lived up to your standard. I'm really sorry. please forgive me and help me try again. That's confession. That's all it is. Anyone can do it.
Oh, I love those moments of daily reflection. Aren't they lovely? It's nice to start the day like that.
It is. It gives you something to ponder as the day goes on, which is a very good thing.
How is Lent going for you if you've given anything up? Let us know. What are we on now, day 3? Yes.
You know exactly what day we're on.
Day 3. I'm day 3, no sugar. I've been very good. Yesterday I had mint tea for pudding.
Why did you give up sugar?
Because I thought it would be a challenge.
Yes, I don't really agree with the giving stuff up. I don't think it's necessary to do something like that.
I'm trying to do it anyway, so I'll let you know how it goes. gbnews.com/you'll say, let us know how your Lent is going.
Right. Should we see what the weather's going to do for you today? Fingers crossed for another sunny one. Here's Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A big change in our weather today, depending on where you are. Less frost and fog in the south, cloudier for much of England and Wales, but for the northern parts of the UK, less unsettled compared with the past few days. Lighter winds, less rain. In fact, a brighter day to come north of the Central Belt, some parts of northwest Northern Ireland as well. Meanwhile, an area of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain will move northwards across western parts of England, into the north of England, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as parts of Wales. 1 or 2 showers breaking out elsewhere, but there'll still be some sunshine for East Anglia and the southeast, feeling pleasant here with highs of 16 Celsius. Elsewhere, feeling a little cooler because of the additional cloud cover. And for northern Scotland, well, temperatures will begin falling away after dusk under these clear skies, but at least it's significantly drier and less windy compared with the week so far. Throughout much of southern Scotland into Northern Ireland, Northern England, parts of Wales and the west, we're going to see a lot of cloud as we end the day. Some outbreaks of rain here and there, but it's very showery in nature, so it'll be on and off. Further southeast, clear skies remain, although with a keen breeze coming up from the southeast, we're again going to largely avoid frost and fog overnight. In fact, we're going to see increasingly clear skies spread across much of England and Wales overnight, but for the far southwest, some heavy rain turns up by dawn. Temperatures generally mid to high single figures, a few pockets of colder spots out of the breeze, but a bright start to the day for much of England and Wales, and increasingly southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing brighter skies develop. An area of thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain will move north across northern Scotland, and again we're going to see some showers across the southwest, perhaps spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland at times. But where we've got the brighter skies, highs of 16, 17, perhaps even 18 Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I know. So, Chef Theo Michaels joins us in the studio to talk about this. We know we've got a problem with food waste in this country, Theo, but this idea that there's a younger generation who are just reading the back of a packet and going, well, that must have gone off then, throwing it in the bin. Why do they do that when maybe we wouldn't?
Do you know what? I think we live in an increasingly sanitised, bubble-wrapped world, right, where we've become detached from our food, we've become detached from using a bit of common sense. And so I think there's a generation that are doing exactly this. They're looking at a best before date to start with, which actually is meaningless. Best before date is me turning around to you two going, the fish should be at its prime on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the use by date. The use by date could be a week later. You know, we say the sniff test. that's what we should be doing. So I've had it before. I had a great experience once. I walked into a supermarket and I saw an Italian guy I know, and he was jumping around with so much excitement as he was collecting handfuls of Parmesan cheese that they said, it was going out of date. And he was laughing, so he was going, we age this stuff for years.
Yes.
It doesn't go out of date.
Yeah.
So he was buying it by the truckload. And I think the key thing is there is this sort of sniff test that people talk about, but it's absolutely right. It's ingrained in us. It's instinctive that if we smell something that's off, it's like giving someone a dose of salts.
I'm also wondering, with these dates on these packaging, did it actually do a favour to the supermarkets because it meant that you're throwing them away and buying less?
100%.
Buying more.
The use by dates only came out in the 70s, right? And that was done by one particular supermarket. And for me, I can't help be cynical about it, Bevan.
Who was it?
It was Marks and Spencer's.
Was it?
Marks and Spencer's in the 70s.
They all followed suit.
And yet...
They all followed suit.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, do you like pie?
I do like a pie.
My friend just sent me a video, because it's British Pie Week, if you didn't know. I've been eating pie all week. My friend just sent me a video, maybe her dad knew, of her dad, and he's done a special Lenten pie.
Lenten pie.
Yes, it's got a cross on it to celebrate the start of Lent. Anyway, I haven't found out what's inside the pie yet, but I'll get back to you
Well,
on
it
that
may
one.
be award-winning.
It looks stunning. It looks really good. My favourite pie is a chicken and leek pie.
Is it really?
Yeah, and I've got a really good recipe for it at home.
Does it have chicken and leek?
And spinach, and it's a creamy sauce, lovely, yeah.
So it's chicken and spinach pie?
With leeks in it as well,
With leek.
yeah. What about you? Cheese and onion? Yes, I already knew that.
No. Well, yes, I do like a cheese and onion, but I like the Linda. I said yesterday the Linda McCartney, whatever they call them, farmhouse pies.
Oh,
or
that
whatever.
sounds lovely,
They're very,
yes.
very nice. Yeah, with a fake meat in it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds nice. But it is British Pie Week, and the historic British Pie Awards have returned to Melton Mowbray for its 17th year.
Well, today, the supreme champion of pies will be announced. Anna Riley went to a bakery in South Yorkshire that's hoping to take home gold.
We've got a steak and ale is the most popular one. That's the one that's in the British Pie Awards. We've got chicken. We do a just steak. All the steak is slow cooked overnight. And then we shred it and mix it with Tracy's signature gravy. We've also now been able to put fruit pies on, and we do quiches as well.
This family-run pie shop in Dinnington is going for a big win at the British Pie Awards. The busy South Yorkshire store has only been open for 6 weeks, and already it's hoping for a prize for its pies.
It's British tradition. You know, it lets especially independent people like us to get his name out there, especially if we win the award. Everybody loves a good pie, especially with we do meals with the mash and the chips and the peas and the gravy. We'll put baked beans on if they want them. It's just tradition, isn't it? Everybody loves a good pie.
For the customers here, pies are one of Britain's best dishes.
They're always full of goodness, aren't they? Hearty, filling, and you could put them with so many things, different vegetables, different types of potatoes. Yeah, just good all rounder.
Feel good food, innit? Pies, yeah. It's not like takeaway food, it's just feel good food. Feel at home, you know.
If it's got a nice filling and a nice pastry, there's nothing better. But just like them, the easy meals.
My family love all the pies here. I've come in about 3 times a week this week, especially the quiches that you can see coming out of the oven. They're freshly made, you can take them home and freeze them.
So here we go. We've got the Handmade Pie Company's steak and ale pie, the one that's been entered for the awards. Let's give it a try. That is absolutely delicious. The meat's perfect quality. The pastry's gorgeous. And it's been paired with some mash, some chips, and some mushy peas. 10 out of 10.
Hannah Riley, GB News.
You see, I'll tell you what I don't like
What
is
don't
when
you
they
like?
call it a pie, but it's only just got a lid on it.
See, I thought to be called a pie, you have to have the sides and the top.
The pastry is the nicest bit. So I always eat the filling first and then save the pastry till the end.
Yeah.
So that's what I like.
And now, how do you feel about a triple carb combo that Anna Riley just described there? She's got the pie, obviously, with the pastry. You have the mash and the chips.
I wouldn't have mash and
I'd be
chips.
overwhelmed by all of that.
Yeah.
But she was saying we were onto a winner with that one.
I don't like mash. I'd have the chips.
Neither do I. We're so in sync.
We are in sync.
But I love chips. Nice chunky chip.
And mushy peas and gravy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got to be nice and soggy.
That is a perfect meal,
That is a perfect meal. You could buy lots of pies, couldn't you, in our amazing prize giveaway, which actually ends today. £10,000 in tax-free cash, but not only that.
No.
Yes, £500 in shopping vouchers as well.
Which you could spend on pies.
You could actually. And a brand new iPhone 16 where you could Google pies, I'm sure. Look at videos of pies.
Anyway, 2 lucky winners of all this. The lines close 6 p.m. today. Here's how you enter.
It's the final day to see how you could become one of 2 big winners. As we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, as lines close at 6 p.m. today. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Best of luck to you on that one.
Do stay with us, still to come. Paul Coyte's going to be here with all your sports. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound from junction 34 for the A631 at Meadowhall to junction 35, the A629 at Rotherham. It's for emergency repairs. On the M6 in the West Midlands, it's busy southbound between junction 7 and 6 towards Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, with delays left over from an accident earlier. All lanes, though, have reopened. Now, in London, the High Street in Ponders End is partly blocked for an investigation. Near to the junction with Nags Head Road, bus routes 121, 279 and 307 are having to divert. Also in London on the A13, it's down to a single lane eastbound after a van caught fire at the Canning Town flyover causing queues. And on the M26 in Kent, there are delays approaching the M25 because of roadworks. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the sports with Paul Coyte, who's here with us. Morning.
Good morning.
You lost yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. It's a real shame.
No. Yeah, in the Europa League, so there were 3 British teams. One lost, and that was Spurs.
Yeah.
One drew,
Classic.
Manchester United. 1-1, which was Rangers. 1-1.
So are you sad today?
No, I'm OK. I'm OK with
right.
it. It was it was disappointing. It was a really disappointing performance. There's Lucas Bergvall, 18 years old, Swede, and he's a fantastic footballer, but... It was a bit of a comedy own goal. Swung at the ball, went flying up in the air behind him, went in the back of the net. So it was away at Alkmaar. And they're 6th in the Eredivisie, which is the Premier League in the Netherlands. And it just was not a good performance. So, Ange Postecoglou, we do love to hear from Ange.
We do like Ange.
Let's have a word with Ange to see what Ange Postecoglou had to say.
Yeah, no, it wasn't great from us tonight. Pretty much all facets of the game. We didn't really get to grips with any part of the game. We struggled to sort of gain any momentum with the ball. We weren't as aggressive as we needed to be without the ball. It was a tricky surface, but having said that, we kind of knew that from yesterday. And, we just didn't really tackle, the challenges we had out there in a real sort of positive way, and that just allowed us there to sort of get into a rhythm, which, when you're playing away from home, it's difficult to sort of stem the tide.
The thing is, you don't want to be saying, it's OK, it wasn't very good, but don't say, the pitch. No. You don't want to go down that line.
Bad workman doesn't blame his tools.
Absolutely. So anyway, the second leg is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next week. So 1-0 down. They should be able to turn that over, but it wasn't a great performance. Manchester United played Real Sociedad. They went ahead and then a penalty given away. They weren't terribly impressive either, safe to say. But then again, neither of these teams have been recently.
Rangers was, though.
Rangers were good. Rangers did really well. Went to Turkey, played against Fenerbahce, and what a great result. I don't think anybody called that, especially seeing as Rangers just haven't been doing so well. And to go over to Turkey and get that result is a magnificent result. So 3-1 to them. Jose Mourinho, not very happy. Obviously, Fenerbahce coach, but very good. Very impressive from Rangers, so well done to them. And Chelsea, by the way, they played at FC Copenhagen. There's a Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Because, I think I mentioned this before, yeah. Copenhagen.
Is that a film or something?
Yes. So wonderful Copenhagen at Danny Case. So people still say Copenhagen, but it's Copenhagen. It's because of Danny Kaye that people say Copenhagen.
Got a lot of blame.
Chelsea, this is interesting. So when you think about this, the Chelsea squad, although they won 2-1 and they weren't great either, another one, is the most expensive ever assembled, their squad. So are they actually getting the result of how much the squad is worth? Well, the answer is no. £1.39 billion their squad is worth. The former highest was Real Madrid at 1.12 billion. And there's this UEFA report, which I saw yesterday, which had just lots of interesting financial things. So I don't want to bore you with finance, but there were some interesting stats in there. 4 clubs had squads worth more than €1 billion, and those 4 are Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United and Arsenal. So all in this country. 9 of the top 20 in Europe with the biggest wage bills are in England. PSG in France, top it at 551.7 million. That's in wages. And the share of revenue that goes to wages in the Premier League. Top are Aston Villa. Now, 91% of their revenue goes on wages. And the lowest in the Premier League, interestingly, is Spurs at 42%. So although it shows how well the business is running, a lot of fans would argue, well, more money should be going to players and therefore we should be getting better players. But 91% Aston Villa, that's a huge amount.
It's a lot of money.
It is, yeah.
Emma Raducanu, she's lost again.
Ellie, thoughts?
I feel like she's been through a lot. Look, it's the first time... It wasn't the first time she's been playing since the whole Stalker ordeal.
Yes, that's true.
That's tough. I'll give it to her. Look, she was crying last week.
Do you know
She's been through a lot.
You know what the main problem was yesterday?
What?
It's not very good.
Well,
Stephen.
that's one thing. There's that. It was wind.
Oh, was it? Oh.
She didn't have wind.
I suffer from that.
Do you? Wind, Indian Wells, which is in California. They call it the unofficial fifth major because it's such a big tournament. So she played Japan's Moyuka Uchijima and lost 6-3, 6-2, and she was beaten and by a player, quite frankly, she should have done better against. She went 2 up in the opening game, struggled with the conditions. It was a little bit too windy because there's nothing worse when you're throwing the ball up to serve and then the wind takes it.
Yeah, but
again,
but
we've got the pitch.
Mayuka Uchijima.
Yes, that's her.
Didn't struggle with the wind.
She didn't struggle. She's a very good wind player, I think.
Very good.
But
very good wind player.
The excuses are no good.
Any excuses? Any excuses?
I'm sorry. I mean, I feel sorry for her. She's a young woman.
I agree.
And I do feel very sorry for her. And I feel sorry that she's had all this stalker business and all the rest of it. But frankly, she's just not good enough.
Oh.
She's not good enough.
It's true. Are you going to stick with your prediction, Ellie, that she's
I'm
going to win
I'm going to be loyal to the
How
cause.
long are we going to give on this?
Oh, years. I'll give it 10 years.
Give it till she's 45. I'm not giving up on you, Emma.
How old is she? 21?
21 years old.
Come on. She's got at least 10 years to make it up. She won the US Open. Look, we can't give up on her.
I think that was a fluke.
No, you don't get to the... Come on. You don't get to the final of the US Open on a fluke.
Vladu Platinic is her new coach. She's had so many coaches.
It's a new era.
Vlado was sitting there alongside and he was shouting, put more spin, more spin, more... And then, after a while, he sat there like that, didn't say anything. Just sat there quietly. So maybe it could be a new coach coming up.
Is he crying?
I think so.
Can we just look at this Pope Francis joke, please?
Oh, yes. OK. Right, it's a bit of a hot potato, this one, isn't it? So I better be very, very careful. Now, the ECB, the English Cricket Board, have apologised over a social media post joking that the Pope loves the Ashes. Now, you can guess where this is going, right, Ellie? We discussed this, the Ashes, you know, with Ash Wednesday.
On Ash Wednesday.
Exactly. And the Pope had there'd been a tweet that had come from the Vatican that said the Ashes remind us of who we are, which does us good. So the England Cricket Board, some bright spark, then tweeted, even the Pope loves the Ashes, thinking of the Ashes, England versus Australia.
Well, I don't think it's that disrespectful.
I don't either. Personally, I don't, but I'm not a very religious man. So therefore, I would... bow to a better judgment on this situation.
I don't think it's disrespectful.
It's a little overly sensitive, isn't it?
I think it is overly sensitive. If people think the Pope would be upset by that, of course he would.
It's not having a go at anybody's faith. It's not insulting Catholicism. Anyway, ECB were obviously very worried because there's a couple of complaints. It was an ill-judged post and swiftly deleted. We apologise for any offence. And apparently the Pope's a huge cricket fan as well, I believe.
He's probably seen it.
Yeah, he's probably seen it. He's probably had a bit of a chortle about it. Anyway, I think people get oversensitive with it all.
Let us know what you think on that one. Thanks, Coy T.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Well, nice.
Right, if you fancy a bit of winter sun, let's
I
show
do.
Oh, you're good. Let's show you the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're wondering if there's any scope for winter sun in the Mediterranean at the moment, well, Greece is your best bet. Mostly fine here, but absolutely horrendous weather across Iberia, Madeira, into the Canary Islands. Of course, we had the flash flooding a day or two ago in Gran Canaria. We've also got the risk of river flooding and flash flooding across Spain, Portugal, into the Balearics. Meanwhile, most of Italy fine away from the far south, and Greece largely fine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
An advert for clothing retailer Next has been banned after it's judged to feature an unhealthily thin model.
Well, the advert, which was a product listing for denim leggings on the retailer's website, was deemed irresponsible by the Advertising Standards Authority after a single viewer complained.
A single viewer, OK. In its defence, Next said the ad was created with a strong sense of responsibility to both consumers and society, and while admitting the model was slim, they added that she had a healthy and toned physique that aligned with the nature of its product, its leggings.
Well, is it irresponsible to feature slim models in adverts? Let's debate this now. We're joined by the showbiz broadcaster and body positivity advocate Danielle Broadbent and the journalist and broadcaster Emma Trimble. Danielle, let's start from you. Did the Advertising Standards Authority get this one right?
Absolutely. I mean, loads and loads of brands sell leggings and they don't need to feature a super slim model to sell their clothing and their leggings. Now, from my point of view, the ASA are not saying that this woman is unhealthy. They're saying the way she's being styled and the way she's posing looks unhealthy. And with such a trend going on at the moment with no, curvy plus-size models in the fashion weeks, the trends of weight loss pens and things that are going around, are we encouraging, when we see adverts like this, vulnerable young teenage girls who are quite vulnerable anyway with body image? Are we encouraging eating disorders?
I think the idea that society is somehow, holding up anorexia as a virtue is just an anachronism. This woman is healthy. She's being body shamed for being healthy. I think people really just need to, and I know this sounds harsh, but I think they just need to get over themselves. It's this kind of scrutiny that is actually leading to people being so fixated on the way that people look.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It is 6:43. Let's see what's in the papers this morning with former Conservative advisor Lauren McEvitt and broadcaster Alex Dyke. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Lauren, let's start with the Express, should we? Andrew Tate being blamed for the horrific actions of the crossbow killer. I mean, is this a fair assessment or not?
The Andrew Tate element? I think it is relevant whether or not somebody is watching programmes like that online. And actually, what I think is interesting in the Express coverage is not actually the front page, it's actually on page 7, where Connor Wilson, Carl Clifford's former commanding officer from the Purbright Training Centre down in Surrey, has written an op-ed saying just how fundamentally ordinary this man was when he came through, through army training. And he's talking about the banality of evil. There comes a point in ordinary life where if there is another factor involved at some point, you become, a danger, a threat. And it's very clear that this person seems to have been radicalised online in a misogynistic manner that has led him to treat the women in this case as appallingly as they have been treated.
That's the fault of the perpetrator, not the video maker, isn't it?
I think that there has to be a concern about content like that online that is actively encouraging the poor, not necessarily treatment, but the poor assessment of women. And sort of, Andrew Tate makes his money out of basically saying, oh, it's not you, it's her. It's never you, it's definitely her. And, anybody who's been in a relationship, heterosexual or otherwise, will say it's never all one person or another. This is very clearly bad advice to be giving people. But he was arrested for good reasons. There's an extradition order out for him, as I understand it, with the United Kingdom for the US for good reasons. This is not a man who should be able to have the platform that he has, in my opinion. But for the existence of the internet and YouTube and platforms like that, he would not have this platform. He wouldn't be invited on here, for example. He wouldn't be invited on Sky News in the same way that, other commentators might be, because they would view it as supporting hate speech.
He can't. We've got to say, he can't respond to all this stuff being said about him at the moment. We haven't got access to him at the moment. But clearly, it's a concern.
Alex, what do you make of it?
Well, it was interesting to see misogyny used in its true sense, which is hatred and contempt of women. The word is bandied around now when some builder could innocently wolf whistle, which you could argue is the very thin end of the wedge, but it's interesting to see it used in the true sense of the word.
Yeah, OK. Let's have a look at the Metro, Alex, should we?
Yes.
Because Royal Radio is underway.
Yes.
You're a radio man.
Yeah, and I don't want to be grumpy about this. I want to be happy about this story.
But you're not, are you?
No, well, it's a coup for Apple that they've got Prince Charles to be a DJ on Apple Music. Elton John's got a show on there. But the red flag for me was Prince Charles's musical journey. And I thought, this isn't about... I mean, you may remember, if you're old enough to, Charles and Diana at Live Aid in July 1985, and Diana was loving status quo, rocking all over the world, but Charles was slightly grimacing through it. I can't believe that he's that much into Bob Marley. I love Bob Marley. I just think this is a box-ticking episode. There's some Kylie, some Grace Jones, no mention of the 3 Degrees, who apparently were his favourite band. So I think this could be like Charles's Christmas speech. We want to be happy about it, but we feel it's a box-ticking exercise.
So what do those artists all have in common?
I don't know.
This is being done for Commonwealth Day. This is about his musical tastes in relation to the Commonwealth. So, yes, Bob Marley may not be the top of his list, but he's making an effort to bring in areas of the realm that, still involved with the monarchy to a certain degree, to say, this Commonwealth Day, I'm doing something a little different and I'm approaching Commonwealth Day through music.
Yeah, but I don't think that Charles is a big music fan per se, particularly reggae, soul and rock and roll.
I think that you might be wrong about that. I mean, the Princess of Wales leaned very heavily on him when picking the music for their wedding, for example. This is someone who is a music fan, but it might not be,
This music he's playing on Apple.
He might be trending Radio 2 rather than Radio 1.
It's probably a little bit like Gordon Brown and his admiration for the Arctic Monkeys and the fact he listened to their CD every morning when he woke up, which he once said, didn't he, when he was trying to get elected? Which obviously was...
That seems like 700 years ago.
It was a long time. Very old.
And Tony Blair...
No, I remember it too.
Tony Blair inviting Oasis to number 10 in 97.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been there before.
That was and Blur. That was the Cool Britannia era. That was a little different.
It's all nonsense, but I like anything the King does, frankly.
I think that it's a great way of engaging a different audience, and I think that efforts like that from the royal households are to be embraced.
But do any of us actually know, as mighty as Apple Music is, do any of us actually know anyone who listens to it?
To Apple Music?
No, but
those radio shows.
The radio shows.
Like the Elton John show.
But people might choose to listen to this for the first time, which is presumably why Apple have picked it up. Is because, and you see this with some of the Apple television programmes that otherwise might not have been seen, where they really push heavily on individual programmes. It might encourage people to sign up to begin with.
It's what young people do, Alex.
Is it?
It's apparently so.
Yeah, we chop it. I still consider myself to be a relatively young person. We chop and change between services and drop them and pick them up again, as in, we don't just continually pay for service.
Lauren, let's have a look at the Telegraph, shall we? And this is the comedian and presenter Alexander Armstrong. He's very angry about Starmer's private school tax raid.
Yeah, so Alexander Armstrong has a child who has special educational needs and is educated through the private system. I can't imagine, I feel sorry for him if this is the case, but I would struggle to believe that Alexander Armstrong would have a problem with the slight uplift personally. However, it does speak
short of cash, is it?
Does speak to a wider difficulty that there are people who have scraped money together to put their children through the private system because there is significantly better special educational needs provision within the private system. I think that there is a very big argument coming over special educational needs provision in England over the course of the next 2 years. There are changes coming to how councils fund SEND provision because of a break they were given 2 years ago is coming to an end fairly soon. There are alterations coming into how SEND is dealt with in councils fairly quickly, and this is going to play into it quite a lot because there are not places in the state system for a lot of the people who are going to have to leave the private system now.
OK. Lauren, Alex, we'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid, because we're joined now by Health Minister Stephen Kinnock. Good morning to you, Mr Kinnock. Good to see you. Can I start by asking you about our top story this morning? It's this horrific case of Kyle Clifford. You'll remember he has been found guilty of raping his ex-girlfriend in an attack last summer in which he murdered her sister with a crossbow and their mother with a knife. He's going to be sentenced next week. What's your reaction to that horrific case?
It's just a heartbreaking story. Just horrific what happened. The fact that it seemed to be a premeditated, very planned assault on those poor women. And my heart goes out to all of the family and their friends and loved ones, and it's very, very important that this man is brought to account and that justice is delivered as rapidly and as clearly as possible.
I mean, there are questions over whether he was influenced. It's being alleged he was influenced by online content. The online safety bill, I mean, is that you can't close every loophole in that, can you?
No, I've seen reports that he was looking at content from Andrew Tate the day before he carried out these horrific attacks. It is, as you say, very, very difficult to close all the loopholes. There's just a vast amount of stuff out there on the internet, and it's impossible to regulate all of it. But I do think that when the Online Safety Act comes into force, it will bring some important checks and balances into the system.
We heard yesterday that Kyle Clifford refused to appear in court. We're hearing this time and time again, aren't we? We heard it from Lucy Letby. Axel Rudakabana wasn't there for his sentencing remarks. Do these people need to be compelled to appear in court, even if that's by force or in handcuffs?
I think that's certainly something that we should be looking at. I'm not I'm not a justice minister. I'm not in the MOJ, and I'm sure that my colleague Shabana Mahmood will be looking at all of these issues. It is really important that when people have committed a heinous crime like this, that they are properly brought to account and punished. And it's important as well, I think, for the victims to see that happening. So. I can't speak for my colleague Shabana on this, but I do think that's an important issue that needs to be looked at.
Can we talk about dental care? Because there's a huge concern about the dental decay in very young children, 3 to 5 year olds. I know you're launching a scheme to try to tackle that. But this is a fundamental parenting issue, isn't it?
I'm really pleased that we're launching our manifesto pledge today for supervised toothbrushing for 3 to 5 year olds in schools, but particularly focused on deprived areas. As you rightly say, it's absolutely shocking that the biggest cause of 5 to 9 year olds being admitted to hospital is to have their decaying teeth removed. And we also know there's a very strong link between deprivation and tooth decay. So what we've launched today is very much a partnership. It's about the early years settings and the children and parents coming together to really get children better informed about their oral health, but also to have fun while they're doing it. I had an absolutely wonderful visit to a primary school in Bristol yesterday, where I saw the kids doing the supervised toothbrushing. They really enjoyed it, and I had a great chance to chat with some of the parents afterwards, and they were saying that where they had some difficulty getting their kids to brush their teeth, since the supervised toothbrushing started, it had completely changed, and it was this really fun thing to do, and it had really improved their oral health as well. So it's about teaching people the habits of a lifetime. Of course, parents have a vitally important role in that, but if we as a government and the early years settings and teachers and early years educators can help to improve behaviours and improve oral health, I think that's a win-win.
It's going to cost £11 million, isn't it? Is that a good use of taxpayers' money for something that parents can do, or is that just nanny state waste?
Well, all the research shows that there's a really good return on investment. So for every pound that we spend on preventative action like this, we save £3 in terms of emergency treatment. So in fact, this is a policy that is going to save the taxpayer money, and we're going to see the benefits of that over the coming 3 to 5 years. Also worth noting that we've got a partnership with Colgate on this. They're donating 23 million toothbrushes and toothpaste. So that's also great value for the taxpayer, because that's coming from Colgate.
We're out of time. I do apologise. Back in a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound for emergency repairs between junctions 34 and 35 near Rotherham. There are delays of up to a quarter of an hour, with some cancelled trains on the West Coast Main Line southbound from Wolverhampton to Birmingham New Street because of a signalling problem. On the M6 in the West Midlands, there are southbound delays from junction 8 for the M5 down to 6 at Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, after an accident and breakdown earlier. In London on the A13, it's down to a single lane eastbound where a van caught fire at the Canning Town flyover, causing delays. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes, and queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Devon, the A382 is closed in both directions off the A38 at Drum Bridges at Heathfield after an accident causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Details of the crossbow killer's rampage come to light.
26-year-old Kyle Clifford is found guilty of rape as prosecutors reveal he watched up to 10 Andrew Tate videos in the 24 hours leading up to that deadly attack.
At the heart of this, the loss of 3 women, Louise, Hannah and Carol Hunt.
Gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Just 1 week after that White House debacle, is a peace deal back on the cards, while Volodymyr Zelensky has done a 180 and is prepared to enter peace talks.
It's a defence budget bust-up at home. Pension giants are apparently refusing to invest in the defence industry, which puts a spanner in the Chancellor's plans.
Keep calm and Charles on. That's the motto that could be adopted, as it's rumoured that the King might play peacemaker between the Ukraine and the US. We'll be debating whether that's a good idea.
The King has other things on his mind this morning, releasing his favourite songs in what's being dubbed Royal Radio. Can you guess what his top tunes are?
The people need some kindness.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
Is Disney too woke for its own good? Well, as the premiere of Snow White is axed over backlash fears, we're investigating how the £200 million mega film became a PR nightmare.
And in the sport this morning, 3 British teams in the Europa League last night. Spurs lost, Manchester United drew, and Rangers beat Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce in Turkey. Emma Raducanu has lost in the first round of Indian Wells, but it was windy. And Thomas Tuchel has a short list, his long list actually, of 55 possible England players going forward.
A reversal in fortunes for many of us today. Cloudier skies where we've seen so much sunshine, but sunnier skies where we've seen so much wind and rain during the last few days. Full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Now, this is interesting. This is a poll from Girl Guiding out this morning, and it essentially says that Gen Z, so that is, what, you have to be up to the age of 27, I believe, 27? It's those born between 1996 and 2010. That's Gen Z. Gen Z. Anyway, they're addicted to their phones, as we know. They've been asked about what they do with their children, and 4 out of 5 of them said they would ban any form of smartphone for their own children. So the generation that is addicted to smartphones would not allow their children to have smartphones.
I'm thrown. So the what was so
they've had it, but they say it's not good.
Oh, OK.
That's
fine.
the implication.
Right. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, he doesn't understand the story. There's no point asking. Well, I'm very glad they've come to that conclusion.
The idea is, in a perfect world, you think, don't have the phone, but everybody needs to have the phone, and then then it's like, what do you do? And then the other kids have the phones, and then you don't have one, and then you're left out.
But you have a basic phone. There's going to be a basic phones for safety,
right,
and tracking and all that sort of thing.
Or just a tracker. That's all parents need, right? A little tracker, just see where they are. Yeah. Or I actually heard the other day, if you just have a watch, you know, the smartwatches you can have now, and then you can pick up calls, but you wouldn't have a phone.
Yeah, but you've got to have your phone.
Oh, do you?
Surely.
No, you don't.
The watch, right?
Have a SIM card in it. You don't.
You have a SIM card in the watch.
Right, there you go.
I didn't know you could have a SIM card in the watch.
But I think it's quite sad, actually, because this...
I can't even tell the time on mine. I can pay for stuff, but I don't even... Oh, well, what do you do? I said, there we are, I'll pay with this. I end up paying for everybody's groceries while I was at it.
Did you?
Well, yeah.
Oh, well, you're a very generous man.
Yeah.
You're a very generous man.
I think it's quite sad, because they're the first generation to have actually grown up with a smartphone.
Yeah, and they're all,
like, and they hate it so much.
Damaged,
yeah, they're severely damaged, and they don't want their kids to have it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep, it is...
I mean, says the woman who spends... you'll see on her Instagram. If you go on her Instagram, there's lots of pictures of you every day looking beautiful.
Yeah.
Like that.
Those are my... And turn the screen around.
Oh.
What you've actually got there is my work notes.
Yeah, work notes.
What's going on here?
And there's a nice picture of you doing the work notes.
So it's but you do, because you're an Instagram generation.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm as bad as the Gen Z, Gen Z.
Worse than you?
Yeah, really bad. So this is what they were saying. The most negative influence, apparently, is on the mental health of female teenagers.
I'm not surprised.
Now that is a fact.
Yeah.
That is...
It has a much worse
it really
impact
is.
on women, apparently, body image. It's really bad for young girls. They wouldn't want their children to have a smartphone.
And it's the filters. Can I just say, filters. I've met so many people over the past few years, and you just look at them online, and when you meet them in the flesh...
and they look so different, don't they?
What is going on? They almost filter their nose off.
Yeah. No, it's really
very
bad.
bad.
Very bad.
There's different apps, and I remember seeing apps when my daughter was younger. And the worst one that I ever saw, and it was and this actually comes from a credible company, it says, rate your friends from 1 to 10.
Oh.
And it would go out to all of them. So they put it in order, they think, I like her. So then whoever's left out, how comes I'm number 5?
Oh, that's so mean.
Just little things like that. And then
awful
things can go after that.
Anyway, let us know what you think on that one with your kids, your grandkids. Would you prefer if they didn't have a smartphone? gbnews.com/say.
I'm sorry I didn't rate you higher.
Well, I was just about to say I had you as number 4. I'm really sorry.
Oh, dear, no, it's a worrying
keep going
time.
as you are, and you never know, you might make your way up.
I might improve. I'll get another filter on. I think it's worrying for our young people, and I get a bit irritated by young people sometimes, but actually, all this sort of stuff, I think, is damaging them. I don't know how you stop it.
Well, they can see the errors of their ways, can't they?
Well...
They don't want to pass it on to the next generation.
It's very positive.
But how do you control it now? I don't know. It's a difficult one.
Anyway, talking of all things on the internet, the man has now been convicted of raping his ex-girlfriend before using a crossbow to kill her sister and mother.
Well, prosecutors have now revealed that Kyle Clifford watched at least 10 Andrew Tate videos in the 24 hours leading up to that deadly attack.
Well, he's going to be sentenced on Tuesday for just a young man, 26 years old.
Well, earlier we spoke to retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville.
Well, this is a wicked and evil crime, isn't it? Premeditated. This man, Clifford, should be sent to prison for a very long time and never be released, in my view.
What about the claimed influences behind all of this?
Well, the internet is a very wild place, and in this vile misogyny you get on there, if this has influenced him, then... But the trouble with that in all is what can you do? You know, these videos come from international places. You can't be controlled in the UK. And the weapons he used as well were legally bought. All we can do with him is to lock him up and make sure he never gets out, so he can never do this sort of thing again.
The prosecution argued that this man watched 10 videos, Andrew Tate videos, in the 24 hours before this attack. He was also watching pornography. Can you see the link yourself between that online content and the violent attack, the sexual attack that was carried out the next day?
Well, there's obviously a link. You know, we've had video nasties, haven't we, for decades. The trouble is, if you have a wicked mind, and these things can just simply make it worse. The question for the government, of course, is how do you control it? As I've said, this is a global issue. You could have online safety acts in the United Kingdom, but when information is being sent out from around the world, it'd be very difficult to control.
Well, joining us now in the studio is political commentator Theo Usherwood. And Theo, this is just the most horrific case, isn't it?
It's horrific, yeah, as you say, Ellie. It's the most horrendous case, a heinous crimes committed by Kyle Clifford. And as the front pages are leading, The Sun, The Times, The Mail, this all seems to have been fuelled by videos that he'd watched of the social media influencer discussing, this is Andrew Tate, the 38-year-old, discussing misogynistic ideology, and then he's gone on to commit these crimes. Indeed, the prosecutor drew a direct link between what Clifford had watched online and then the crimes that, especially the rape of Louise Hunt, that he committed afterwards as an act of spite.
He did. It's worth saying, though, that I mean, the defence said the Andrew Tate material was too vague a link and too prejudicial.
Yes, I mean,
I'm not trying to defend the man.
No,
but he wasn't on trial here.
No, he wasn't on trial. But I think there's a broader question now for the government. I watched your interview with Stephen Kinnock before the top of 7, and it was interesting where he obviously you can only have one view as to the horrendousness of what has happened in this particular case. But whilst he said the government was moving to, of course, introduce the online safety legislation that he hoped would deal with some of the problems on the internet that we have with the internet, he did acknowledge that this is a very difficult area because obviously Tate was facing prosecution in Romania. He's now travelled to Florida, where he, I think, is now facing a separate criminal investigation. And but in terms of what he actually posts online, the question is, can the social media companies or can the government force the social media companies to take that material down if it is not illegal and Tate hasn't, on the particular post, committed a specific crime? And that's the thorny issue that the government is grappling with here. And the worrying thing is, and this is what we all hope won't happen, but I fear will, is that these cases become more and more common.
But at what point does it become censorship? So it's the free speech argument, isn't it?
Precisely. It's above my pay grade and all of us to think, well, where do you draw the line? But clearly something has to be done because the government has to take action. I thought the authorities have to do something to ensure that, whilst we can never eliminate the risk of another Kyle Clifford, that we can at least mitigate against it happening again. And I don't know. I don't have the immediate answers to how you do that.
OK. Theo Ashwood, good to see you this morning. Thank you. Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And there's so much to unpack with this story. It's how do you tackle misogyny? Where do you start with that? Does that need to start being taught in schools? Hatred of women?
I don't... How many people have a hatred of proper misogyny like that?
I feel like a growing number.
Do you think? I mean, it's not something I come across, I have to be honest. But I know we've got to an extent, because he's not here to defend himself, stand up for Andrew Tate and his right to free speech. Let me just say that does not mean I agree with what I've read. I haven't watched his videos. I've read what he's put on Twitter. I am not a fan by any stretch of the imagination. Whether he should be blamed for the actions of others, I don't know. It's a very difficult situation.
Yeah. There's also the issue of the fact that this Kyle Clifford man didn't attend court yesterday, refused to attend court. Do you think that defendants in this case should be compelled to attend court?
Kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming if needs be.
The screaming is an issue, actually, because they say that how difficult would that be for the family members and things. Tape his mouth up. Tape the mouth. I know it does sound a bit brutal, but if they're going to kick and scream, tape them up and make them stand there as they are sentenced.
Or a soundproof box in court. It could be worked. It could be worked on, couldn't it? We put that to the government earlier. We put that to Stephen Kinnock, and he was suggesting that's part of the Justice Minister's realm, which of course it is. But it would be interesting to know what you think of that one. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Yeah.
We're seeing that happen more and more, aren't we?
We are, and it's not on, actually. It's not on at all. Right. So we turn our attention to the EU.
Let's.
And everyone's favourite president, Ursula von der Leyen. She's rallied European leaders, calling for nation-states to back Donald Trump in ending Ukraine's war with Russia.
We all want a peace through strength. A just and lasting peace, but a peace from a position of strength. And this is also in the interest of President Trump, to have a peace through strength. And if he wants to achieve this, it is only possible with the support of the European Union and its member states.
Well, those member states were encouraged to boost defence spending following ongoing pressure from President Trump.
Yeah, Mr. Trump insists the US will not defend NATO allies who refuse to increase their spending.
Well, I've said that to them. I said, if you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago. And because of that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. But even now, it's not enough. It's really not enough. They should be paying more.
Well, US-Ukraine peace talks are due to be held in Saudi Arabia next week, with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying he's hopeful for a meaningful meeting.
Earlier, we spoke to US analyst Eric Ham.
I think it certainly did not deter President Zelensky from going back to the table to actually meet with both the U.S. as well as with Russia. And we now know that he will be at this meeting next week. And even after that debacle in the Oval Office, President Zelensky was still clear that he wanted to try to mend relations with the United States, specifically with President Trump, to actually get a deal specifically on minerals. And so I think Donald Trump will be very happy that this is now back on track and it's actually moving forward.
I mean, does President Zelensky of Ukraine have a choice in this, really? Intelligence has been stopped being shared with Ukraine, and military aid, US military aid, has been stopped going into Ukraine. I mean, he has to come to the table. He's almost been forced to, hasn't he?
Nations have spoken up about providing support. They simply cannot provide the support that the United States has. And quite frankly, we have not seen to date that they're willing to actually do more than what the United States has provided so far. But even with Donald Trump actually agreeing to meet with President Zelensky and now saying that this deal is back on track, he still has yet to actually offer tangible security guarantees to Ukraine at this point. And so it still remains to be seen exactly what President Zelensky and Ukraine is actually getting from its relationship with the United States.
Yeah, but it's fascinating to watch all this unfold because obviously that's all happening in the White House and directly with Zelensky. We just heard a clip of Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, I mean, basically saying Europe needs to knuckle down and do what Donald Trump is telling them to do. I mean, his impact seems to be really felt across the continent here.
Well, actually, I think Donald Trump is actually spot on about this. We do see you've got Russia that's knocking on Europe's door. And quite frankly, Europe is powerless to do anything because for so long they have actually been dependent on the United States. And so I think Donald Trump is actually right. Europe needs to do more, and they should. But again, the question is, what can they do? And then, of course, how quickly can they actually ramp up?
Now, should we get a check on the weather?
I think we better had. It's been nice the last few days, hasn't it?
Gorgeous. Is it set to last?
I don't know. I feel like spring is here.
Or is it a fool's spring, as it's called?
Is that a thing?
Yeah. It's when you get that first flush of warm weather and you're like, oh, it's here, and it's not.
Oh.
But Aidan McGibbon's got all of the answers for us this morning.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A big change in our weather today, depending on where you are. Less frost and fog in the south, cloudier for much of England and Wales, but for the northern parts of the UK, less unsettled compared with the past few days. Lighter winds, less rain, in fact a brighter day to come north of the Central Belt, some parts of northwest Northern Ireland as well. Meanwhile, an area of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain will move northwards across western parts of England, into the north of England, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as parts of Wales. 1 or 2 showers breaking out elsewhere, but there'll still be some sunshine for East Anglia and the southeast, feeling pleasant here with highs of 16 Celsius. Elsewhere, feeling a little cooler because of the additional cloud cover. And for northern Scotland, well, temperatures will begin falling away after dusk under these clear skies, but at least it's significantly drier and less windy compared with the week so far. Throughout much of southern Scotland into Northern Ireland, northern England, parts of Wales and the west, we're going to see a lot of cloud as we end the day. Some outbreaks of rain here and there, but it's very showery in nature, so it'll be on and off. Further southeast, clear skies remain, although with a keen breeze coming up from the southeast, we're again going to largely avoid frost and fog overnight. In fact, we're going to see increasingly clear skies spread across much of England and Wales overnight, but for the far southwest, some heavy rain turns up by dawn. Temperatures generally mid to high single figures, a few pockets of colder spots out of the breeze, but a bright start to the day for much of England and Wales, and increasingly southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing brighter skies develop. An area of thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain will move north across northern Scotland, and again we're going to see some showers across the southwest, perhaps spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland at times. But where we've got the brighter skies, highs of 16, 17, perhaps even 18 Celsius.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, it is the final day, the final 11 hours, actually, to see if you could get your hands on one of 2 amazing prize bundles in our giveaway.
Yes, each one has a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers and a whopping £10,000 in tax-free cash. You'll have to get a wiggle on. Lines close at 6 p.m. today.
It's the final day to see how you could become one of 2 big winners. As we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, as lines close at 6 p.m. today. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh yes, best of luck if you enter that today.
Do stay with us. Still to come, Disney has cancelled the UK premiere of Snow White. Find out why in just a moment.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I ended up being hospitalised, and I was diagnosed with it within the first few days of being in hospital. I was in hospital for 2 months, and I came out about 13 months ago, something like that. And I realised that there are people that aren't as lucky as me that don't have that platform to be able to talk about it, bring it out in the public, and deal with the stigma, because there is still a stigma.
A lot of people don't really know what bipolar is. So in you, Heston, how did it manifest itself?
It's funny because before the diagnosis, I mean, everything, many things, from thinking the TV was talking to me to hallucinating stuff. The downside is suicidal thoughts, which seemed normal at the time. The upside is the thing there's grandiosity, somewhere between Superman and Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Save the world, love everybody, everything is fantastic. And then it comes crashing down. It's a bit like a toddler, you know, an overexcited child. And when a kid gets overexcited, and then something happens, and then they start crying.
Wow. So massive highs, big lows.
Yeah, but I thought everything was normal. It's only now that I've come out the other side, so to speak, that I look back and can see some of the character traits. I mean, my patience levels were almost non-existent before. I'm a lot more patient. I'm talking much slower. I was talking very quickly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
7:24 morning to you now. Bosses at Disney have scrapped the red carpet premiere of the new Snow White film at the very last minute because fears of a massive backlash.
Well, the film has already been slammed for having Snow White played by a Latin American actress called Rachel Zegler, using computer-generated dwarves, as well as renaming them as magical creatures.
Snow White and the Seven Magical Creatures.
Exactly that, yeah.
And no Prince Charming, really. So this morning we're asking, is Disney pushing a woke agenda?
Well, joining us now to discuss this is author and broadcaster Rebecca Reed and the journalist Julie Cook. Good to see you this morning, ladies. Rebecca, let's start with you. Is Disney pushing a woke agenda with this Snow White film?
You know, it's so funny because when I agreed to this debate, I was told the strapline was, is Disney too political or are children's films too political? Because I would never use the word woke agenda. I'm not sure it's very helpful. But in answer to your question, fairy tales have always been inherently about morality and about right and wrong. And so there is nothing wrong with children's films having an agenda which is about morality. I think Disney's issue is that they got it so spectacularly wrong, and they've been trying to be politically correct and to be seen or to be perceived as being very forward-thinking, but they've been massively inconsistent and they haven't asked the right people. Because, for instance, the dwarves, which are played by largely CGI actors, little people would tell you that that's 7 roles for 7 actors of a small height. And so if they had just asked the right person, the politically correct thing to do would have been to hire 7 little people, which is what dwarves prefer to be called. So it's not about the fact that they've got it wrong by trying to be socially progressive. It's about the fact that they have massively misunderstood how you should do that correctly.
Julie, what do you make of this? I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to make a political point or a moral point with a story or a film. Is the problem here the fact that they're rewriting a classic?
Yes, I think it is. And, you know, I agree with Rebecca in that morals are really important. In fact, that's the basis of a fairy tale. It's telling you about right and wrong. It's teaching children who to look out for, who to avoid. You know, morals are the very basis of our fairy tales. And I think in this case, rewriting an entire script of a story so that it's almost very different to the original. I don't care whether she's a Latin American or not. That's not my point. But I think I actually agree with Rebecca in that, you know, this was 7 actors who could have had work, and the title is in fact Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And I think we're becoming far too political about everything. It's almost exhausting how political we have to be about everything. We have to second guess every single thing anybody says and does now. And when you take it down to the basics, it's just a children's fairy tale.
Rebecca, do you think it's a rewriting of a children's classic?
So every fairy tale has been rewritten throughout all of history, and if you're a scholar of literature, which I am, you'll be able to trace back every single version of the fairy tale. So Cinderella is a really good example. In French, it's Cendrillon, and her shoes were originally made of fur, and the stepsisters cut off their toes to shove them in the shoe. And then when Disney made the 1950s Cinderella, they understandably didn't think the little girls wanted to see toes being chopped off, so they rewrote that version. So all through history, we've written fairy tales. I remember doing a load of like the feminism circuit on telly in 2015 when Maleficent came out, because they changed it from Sleeping Beauty being kissed by a prince. In the film, she's played by Elle Fanning, who's about 14. So instead of being kissed by a prince, she's kissed by her godmother, who's Maleficent. And at the time, the same outrage machine got cranked up, but they were rewriting fairy tales. But that's always been part of the conversation. And also, if this is a film you're going to show to your little girl daughters, actually much nicer not to see an unconscious woman being kissed by a stranger, but instead to find a route that feels a bit more modern. That is what has always happened. This is not new.
That's a fair point, Julie, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. You know, when you look at it like that, I mean, stories, of course, get adapted over years and through cultures and through eras and through what's acceptable at each time, of course, and modernising things. But I think the wider issue as well is, I think, when we were initially talking about this, is Disney becoming too woke in general? And I think, for example, in a recent film, a Disney Pixar film, Elemental, there was a little bit of a furore in which there was one character, I haven't seen it, but one character is apparently non-binary and says they're non-binary in the film. And it's a PG film. And I think a lot of parents might have been worried, not being anti-woke, but just worried that they'd then have to have conversations perhaps far too young with their children about sexuality. And Of course, we all need to know that our kids do PGCE in school. They have to be aware of everything. But I think there's a time and a place, and I think Disney's trying to tick all the boxes, keep everybody happy, and it's just a bit exhausting.
I would say on that one in Elemental, the character who's non-binary is either made of water or made of fire and doesn't have any arms or legs. So I think if your child sees something where someone's non-binary, if they do look like a cartoon character who's made out of blobs of water, you can just say, well, darling, it was an imaginary film because they also didn't have any feet. So I don't think you need to get overly worried about that. And I do find it funny when people are suggesting that this film is too, and I really, really hate the word woke, because Gal Gadot, who is the adult lead in the film, who plays the Wicked Queen, is a former IDF member and a very outspoken advocate of Israel. So from the woke side of things, she's enemy number one, the most hated woman on the internet. So I think, again, Disney hasn't landed any woke points, and it's made people on the right angry. They've managed to do a clean sweep of getting it wrong for everyone.
Yeah, no, as you say, it seems like there's nothing wrong with a bit of progression in a sense. It's just Disney have done this particularly badly, it would seem. Rebecca, Julie, good to see you both. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Now, some breaking news in the past few minutes. The discovery of a World War II bomb has disrupted morning traffic to and from Paris's busy Gare du Nord train station this morning. The French National Railway Company, TER, has said that an unexploded bomb from the Second World War was discovered near the tracks. They said this on a social media post on X. The disruption is affecting both local metros and national and international trains. Eurostar's website shows that at least 3 trains scheduled to depart from Gare du Nord on Friday morning have so far been cancelled.
Yeah, so if you are heading there, just keep an eye on the updates from us and online this morning. I always find it extraordinary when stuff like this happens. The fact that all these years on, these munitions are still being discovered. I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Well, hopefully they can get it sorted as soon as possible. But there is disruption. So do, if you are set to be on a Eurostar today, do check before you travel because services are being cancelled.
Right, we're going to take you through all the latest sports news with Paul Coit in just a couple of ticks.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the westbound exit at junction 33 for the A162 at Ferry Bridge, causing delays. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound for emergency repairs between junctions 34 and 35 near Rotherham. There are delays of up to a quarter of an hour with some cancelled trains southbound on the West Coast main line between Wolverhampton and Birmingham New Street because of a signalling problem. And in Birmingham on the A38M Aston Expressway, there are northbound queues after traffic was stopped when a car broke down between Dartmouth Circus and Park Circus. In Cambridgeshire on the A14, there are eastbound queues towards junction 16 at Catworth between Thrapston and Huntingdon because of roadworks. And in Devon, the A382 is closed in both directions off the A38 at Drum Bridges at Heathfield because of an accident. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I can't believe Paul Coyte's back again.
I know.
It's gone really fast.
I know. I'm really sorry.
Time flies, you're having fun.
I feel is that good?
I like it when you're here.
So you lost last night. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, used to it.
Should we move on? Spurs lost to... See, I got to get the pronunciation right. It's not AZ Alkmaar, it's RZ Alkmaar. And it was more than anything else. They lost 1-0. Spurs weren't great, to be honest with you. It's in the Europa League, so it's 2 legs. This is down to the last 16, so it's not over yet for Spurs. You would expect that next week they'll get them back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and win. But we'll see. Lucas Bergvall scored an own goal. It's a bit of a comedy goal. No, I think there's probably 1 shot on goal throughout the whole thing. So anyway, sixth in the Eredivisie. RZ. Real Sociedad drew 1-1 with Manchester United, so that is another away game. So it's better that the British clubs get to go back and play at home in the second leg in front of their own fans. Rangers were brilliant. They beat Fenerbahce 3-1.
Yeah, that's good.
Jose Mourinho, who is the manager of Fenerbahce, I mean, it's kind of like fighting talk. It's kind of what you would expect from Jose. So Jose was saying that, you know, the tie's not over yet. So don't be celebrating too much. Here's Jose.
They were pragmatic, as I was expecting. They were competitive, and they deserve the victory. The only thing I tell them is don't celebrate too much, because there is a second match to play, is my only advice. Then if in the end of the second game they celebrate, I will congratulate them. But now, calm down, because it's not over.
It's so patronising though, isn't it? It's my only advice. I will give advice to Rangers, don't celebrate too soon. But then again, that's one of those things as a football fan, you either dish it out, you've got to expect to take it back the other way, or you don't.
Yeah.
Fair point. Too soon.
Now, have you got news of a father-son falling out here?
Oh. Well,
potentially.
I don't know whether it's actually a falling out, Ellie, or exactly what's gone on. Now, Jake Whiteman, who we've had on the show before, Jake Whiteman is former 1,500-metre world champion from a couple of years ago. Fantastic runner, lovely fella as well, and his dad, Jeff. Now, I don't remember the story that when he won that title, Jeff, who is not only his coach, he's also a commentator in the stadiums. So when Jake was winning that world title, Jeff was actually the main commentator in the stadium, calling his son's win. So it was all very exciting. Now, I know for a fact that Jake has had a situation with his dad. And when I talk about his dad, and he goes, he would make jokes about it and say, yeah, but he never really prays as much. You know, it's one of those where, you know, it's always very tough. Now, he's now broken away from his dad as his coach, which must be one of the most difficult things to be able to do. So Jake put on social media, at the age of 14, a great race for me would be to make the Scottish Schools final. Goes on, talks about them working together. But he's put, the point has come into my career where both physically and mentally, we both need to go our separate ways. By doing this, we ensure there's plenty more to come in the future, not only as coach and athlete, but as father and son, which obviously is more important than coach-athlete.
Yes, absolutely.
So you would wonder exactly what was going on there. But anyway, we wish them both well.
Yeah.
It's mystery.
Okay. Paul, thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're joined now by Shadow Justice Minister Kieran Mullen. Good to see you this morning, Mr Mullen. Can I start by asking you about this horrific case? Carl Clifford found guilty yesterday of raping his ex-girlfriend in an attack in which he murdered her sister and her mother with a crossbow and a knife as well. What's your reaction to this case?
Well, an appalling crime, and I'm sure everyone in the country will think about their own friends and family and what it would be like for them to go through that situation. I know I was this morning. I'm sure those family members are delighted to see that he's been convicted, but of course that won't take away from their deep sense of hurt and pain and loss.
It raises questions, doesn't it, about online safety? I mean, the prosecution in this case argued that this man had been influenced by what he'd seen online. How do we properly tackle that? Because it seems there are always going to be internet loopholes.
Well, I think we have to always, in these circumstances, be clear about the individual responsibility of people like that. There are, millions of us in this country who have access to that same content, and it doesn't lead to us committing these sorts of horrific acts. So people are responsible for their own actions. Having said that, of course, we know that some of these things can have an impact, which is why in government, as the Conservatives, we passed the landmark, really, Online Safety Act, which was designed to force social media companies to take the proper steps that they should be doing to minimise access to this sort of content, particularly for children. That is, for the first year now, going to be implemented. So Ofwat, the regulator, Ofgem rather, are going to be making sure companies do that. And actually, the fines that are in place that we introduced would allow them to fine these companies up to 10% of their global turnover. So this is power with real teeth. And I think we have to see this year, as that act is put into force, the impact that it has.
How do we tackle misogyny then? I mean, if you're saying it's up to the individual, it's away from online content, misogyny being the hatred, the prejudice, the contempt of women and girls, how do we tackle that? It seems to be a growing trend.
Well, I'm a big believer in the importance of society and individuals and all of us having a role in that. So in every household where there are young men being raised by parents, they have to ensure that they're brought up with the respect that women deserve and an understanding of the evils of these sorts of mentalities. I think that has to be the starting point. We can't just leave these things to government and legislation. We all have a role to play. At the same time, of course, we have to invest in services and support for young people in schools, with supporting teachers to raise these issues as well. And then, as I've said, when it comes to the companies that have a role to play, make sure the government cracks down on them and the regulator has the powers it needs to do that.
OK, can we turn our attention to farming? There's another big protest today on this inheritance tax issue. Are farmers wasting their time with this now? I mean, do you think the government's totally dug into this as a concept?
I would never tell a campaign group of any kind to give up or to not continue. It's incredibly disappointing after all these protests, after the incredibly negative impact that these farmers have explained this tax is going to have on them. Really putting an end to so many family farms' ability to pass on to the next generation at a time when we know food security and the importance of growing our own food is so important. It's an appalling tax, and I think it's just one of the many examples of the things that Labour promised quite clearly during the election campaign that they weren't going to do. They were very specific about this. They then brought it in, and I just empathise with them, doing everything I can, and I know all the rest of the Conservative MPs are, to support farmers, get behind them and continue to put pressure on the government to reverse this decision.
Can I just ask you there's a lot of focus on the farming side of this, which is hugely important, and no one underestimates that. Well, no one who isn't in government anyway. But this affects businesses as well, and particularly small businesses can't be passed down generation to generation. Well, that's going to affect our chances for growth, isn't it?
Yes, you're completely right, and I understand why the focus is on farms, and they're incredibly important, but as you said, it affects many other types of businesses, small businesses set up by families who, again, maybe for generations have sought to develop and grow that business, and we're seeing that this is a Labour government that just doesn't understand economic growth. That they inherited a situation where, yes, we had challenges, but the economy was the fastest growing economy in the G7 in our final quarter when we were in charge, and they have hammered growth into an almost standstill. Through their negative talking down of the economy, through their tax raising, through the uncertainty they created for business and the pressure they're putting on business, particularly as we're approaching this new jobs tax, which is going to hit all sorts of businesses, large and small actually, with the extra money that it's going to cost them to employ people. That's going to suppress growth, suppress employment. It's a disaster for our economy, and it's a disaster, I'm afraid, that's entirely of Labour's making.
OK. Dr Mullen, good to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, breaking news in the past few minutes, the discovery of a World War II bomb has disrupted morning traffic to and from Paris's busy Gare du Nord train station this morning. The French national railway company TER has said on a post on X that this disruption is taking place, and Eurostar's website shows that at least 3 trains that are scheduled to depart from Paris this morning to London have been cancelled.
Let's talk to travel guru Simon Calder, who joins us now. I mean, is this likely to cause significant disruption all day, Simon?
I am so sorry to say that it is, Stephen. Yes, so late last night, I understand a suspect bomb from the Second World War was found near the tracks for the TGV Nord line, which goes from Paris up to Lille and then across to Calais and through the Channel Tunnel. As a result of that, well, you mentioned 3 trains being cancelled. Just in from Eurostar, it's now 9 trains cancelled. That's the first 3 departures from London to Paris. But on top of that, 6 trains coming out of Paris to London. The reason why there's twice as many coming in as going out is that they're clearly hoping that by the time the event is sorted out, which they're hoping is going to be later this morning, that things will allow the line to reopen. Now, the big problem is that the people who are travelling right now are being told, well, they're being invited to travel on a later train, except that almost all those later trains are very, very heavily booked. So it's extremely messy for the people, and we're talking here about, I'm estimating from those trains, about 7,000 or 8,000 passengers who are now scrabbling around trying to sort themselves out. And as you and I have discussed before, if this was a plane issue and they had lots of flights cancelled, that would be fine. You just book on somebody else, including Eurostar. But it doesn't work the other way around. If you want to book on a flight, well, good luck getting a seat, and it will cost hundreds of pounds, and then you're not going to be able to claim it back from Eurostar. You might be able to claim it back from your travel insurer.
OK. Simon Calder, thank you for keeping us posted on that developing story.
Oh, it's a mess if you're trying to go away or come back.
Not ideal if you're in Paris and trying to head home.
If you're caught up in that mess, let us know. By the way, I was just looking at Kieran Mullen, who we had on for the Conservative Party earlier on, who I was just looking him up because I've never interviewed him before. I'm not familiar with him, actually. He was an A&E doctor for more than 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's quite interesting. He's in the Shadow Justice at the minute. I don't know why he's not in the Shadow Health area. But anyway, interesting, isn't it, when you look into some of these people? He's certainly a man with a lot of knowledge when it comes to that.
Good experience.
Which I would quite like to chat to him about at some point.
Yeah, we'll have to get him back on, chat to him.
Yeah.
Now, are you in search of some winter sun? Well, if you are, you're in luck. Here's the forecast of some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're wondering if there's any scope for winter sun in the Mediterranean at the moment, well, Greece is your best bet. Mostly fine here, but absolutely horrendous weather across Iberia, Madeira, into the Canary Islands. Of course, we had the flash flooding a day or two ago in Gran Canaria. We've also got the risk of river flooding and flash flooding across Spain, Portugal, into the Balearics. Meanwhile, most of Italy fine away from the far south, and Greece largely fine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
A new study has found that almost 8 in 10 of Gen Z Brits believe that the romantic poems of Shakespeare, Keats, Barrett Browning and the rest are outdated and irrelevant. Can we re-engage youngsters with such verse? Can the Gen Z audience become infatuated with love poetry? Joining me now is the Professor and Chair of English at the University of Virginia, Andrew Stauffer. Andrew, welcome to GB News. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
What is it that a poet does with language and in love, with language and with love, to express love better than any other way in which it can be expressed?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it is, it's relying on language as being the primary way that we get in touch with our feelings, that, poetry is the language art par excellence. And so it's the assumption that the more we can use our words to talk about our feelings, the deeper, more pleasurable, more available those feelings actually are to us. And so in a certain way, reading poetry, not only we recognize our feelings, we even catch feelings from art, from poems, from songs, from stories. There's a way that even our own most personal relationships are structured by the culture that we have grown up in and that we've been immersed in. And so it really can be an aid, or at least a transformative experience to encounter language, to give yourself words for your own very private feelings that turns out have been felt by other people going all the way back to Sappho and Catullus and Horace and through Shakespeare and through the whole English tradition. So that can be galvanizing as well, really kind of eye-opening to know that you're not alone in your feelings.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It is 7:51. We're going to have a quick look at the papers with former Conservative advisor Lauren McKevitt and broadcaster Alex Dyke. Morning, you two.
Morning.
Alex, this story caught my eye this morning in the Daily Mail. It's about Generation Z.
Yeah.
They've become disillusioned with social media and they hate it so much that they wouldn't want their children to have it.
Let me tell you more about Gen Z. They're becoming disillusioned, as you say, with social media. 4 out of 5 vow to ban their own children from using it as long as possible, a new survey has found. Now, whenever you hear a new survey is found, do you think, I don't know whether I believe this? How many people have they surveyed? I mean, I am addicted to my phone. I've just put it in my pocket now just to hide it, but I'm addicted to my phone. And my kids are Gen Z, and they're all over the internet. I think...
It's a disgrace, Alex.
Well, how many times have you seen, and you'll see it today, mums and dads, but pushing strollers whilst they're on their phone like this? Yeah.
It's a disgrace.
And they are not connecting with their children.
No.
So I like what the survey says, but I don't believe it.
Well, see, it's 1,600 young people and it's girl guiding. So I think it's quite
with the
quite
girl
a good
guides.
source. Yeah.
Well, they do seem an honest bunch, but...
And they're saying it's mostly girls, and there's 4 out of 5, obviously, it's girl guiding, so it's mostly girls, and they're worried about body image and the impact on women's mental health.
Yeah, I think it's a nice...
I
think it's a nice idea, but it's kind of impossible to stamp out.
I agree, it's impossible to stamp out, but I think that what's interesting about having asked that particular cohort, even though they are using social media a huge amount themselves, is they're most likely to then say, well, I don't want my children to use it because I know how much it's damaged me, I know it's damaged my self-esteem, I know I've been bullied online, or etc. So it's not necessarily about their usage and whether or not your Gen Z children are using it, but it's more about their attitudes towards how they grew up with it and whether or not, because this generation is now getting into the baby-making generation, whether or not this generation would see their children use it because of their own experiences being so exposed on the internet.
I think it's very interesting. I do. Can we have a look at the FT, Lauren? GB Energy.
Yeah.
Apparently it's getting its budget cut.
So, again, I suspect...
You're smiling.
With me, well, I am, because I do enjoy it when Ed Miliband has a not great day. I suspect that I would put Ed Miliband at the top of the resignation watch list for Labour, to be honest.
Do you think he'll go?
I don't think he'll... I don't
a lot of rumours swirling.
I'm not saying that he's going to go this week or anything, but I would say if there was anybody in the cabinet likely to be, ticked off enough to walk away, it's most likely to be him. This is his
the bacon sandwich.
sort of his brainchild of the wealth fund, and his objections to Heathrow, and all of these things seem to be steamrolled by the centre. Now budgets being cut in favour of defence expenditure. The green issues, the net zero issues. I think Morgan McSweeney in number 10, very clearly in the last paragraph here, talking about Morgan McSweeney having an eye to reform voters and how they feel about net zero and green issues. I think Ed Miliband is probably going to be deeply unhappy with the politicisation of something he feels should be a neutral and just universally accepted issue being used for an electoral football by the centre, because they're so concerned about reform voters splitting away from Labour now. So this is a big hit to Ed Miliband's department. It's likely to be bigger still once the spending review comes out. If I was him, I'd be significantly unhappy with this.
Dear me, he's not a man who can look back at his political career with a lot of pride, is he?
Well, it's definitely been interesting.
It's interesting, but he's failed at every...
Yeah, it's not been up and down, has it? It's just been down.
Yeah.
That's poor old Ed's problem. No one's buying into it.
No.
Are people buying into Meghan Markle, Alex?
Right.
Or Meghan Sussex, we should say, actually.
Yeah, so she's done, for her new Netflix series, she's done one press interview and one TV interview, and she's gone on Drew Barrymore's American show. And Drew's been obviously reading the memo that you don't call her Meghan Markle. You refer to her as one of the Sussexes.
Well, that's true, though. It's accurate.
Well, it is true, but the thing is...
Is it not Mountbatten Windsor?
No, she's Sussex.
Her children, her children are
Because her
Mountbatten Windsors. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Meghan and Harry
Sussex.
If you're calling her Mrs. anything, it'd be Mountbatten Windsor, but you're not.
I think the problem is for her, and if we're all honest, none of us want to like this series. She stirred us up so much that even if it was good, we wouldn't admit to liking it. I think that is the problem. She's done the worst PR job on herself ever. And I just looked on YouTube. There's lots of young mums who could tell you how to bake cookies.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a fair point. We've got to leave it there, you two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Top stories next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 41 and 42 towards the M62 Lofthouse interchange. The M60 in Greater Manchester is blocked by an accident clockwise between junctions 16 and 17 from Pendlebury to Prestwich. There are queues from junction 13 Worsley. Trains have been stopped between Sheffield and Meadowhall because of a signalling problem, with delays and cancellations between Sheffield and Doncaster. In Derbyshire, the A38 is partly blocked northbound by a breakdown at Kingsway Island west of Derby. There are delays of up to half an hour to southbound trains on the West Coast main line between Wolverhampton and Birmingham New Street because of a signalling problem. Eurostar train services have been stopped because of an incident near to Parry Gare du Nord, and in Devon the A382 is closed west of Kingstainton after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of two big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have two prize bundles that have to be won. There's two lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're
proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good morning. Details of the crossbow killer's rampage come to light.
26-year-old Kyle Clifford is found guilty of rape as prosecutors reveal he watched up to 10 Andrew Tate videos in the 24 hours leading up to that deadly attack.
And of course, at the heart of this, the loss of 3 women, Louise, Hannah and Carol Hunt.
Gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
It's been 1 week since that White House debacle, and we're now asking, is a peace deal back on the cards? Well, it's as Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine prepares to enter peace talks.
He was booted out of the Oval Office a week ago, but now it looks like peace talks are set to start in Saudi Arabia this week. I'll bring you the details shortly.
Breaking news this morning as Eurostar trains are cancelled after an unexploded World War II bomb is found near Paris. Travellers told to stay at home.
Keep calm and Charles on. That's the motto that could be adopted as it's rumoured that the King might play peacemaker between Ukraine and the US. We'll be debating whether or not that's a good idea.
Meanwhile, the King's got 1 or 2 other things on his mind this morning. He's released his favourite songs in what's being called Royal Radio. So can you guess what his top tunes are, pop pickers?
Farmers descend on London. Hundreds are en route as they speak to protest the inheritance tax changes that have left the industry in tatters.
And in the sport, 3 British teams in the Europa League last night. Spurs lost, Manchester United drew, and Rangers beat Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. Emma Raducanu has lost in the first round at Indian Wells, but it was windy.
Stop smiling.
I'm not smiling. That Thomas Tuchel has a short list of 55 possible England players, which is quite a long list.
A reversal in fortunes for many of us today. Cloudier skies where we've seen so much sunshine, but sunnier skies where we've seen so much wind and rain during the last few days. Full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Competition's heating up for who's going to be the next James Bond.
Oh!
You excited?
No.
Oh,
it's all the time.
You excited?
I am.
Always.
No, but this one will surprise you.
Go on.
Oh, OK. Who's?
Piers Brosnan.
No.
That would be great.
No.
Yeah.
Piers Brosnan. I love Piers Brosnan.
Piers Brosnan has
As
revealed
James Bond.
he's interested in returning as a pensioner James Bond.
He still looks great, though, doesn't he?
He does. He's gone all white and it suits him.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. He says it's a rather romantic notion to do it again, but we could James Bond, Piers Brosnan as an older, much older Bond.
Yeah, why not?
Well, he was my favourite Bond, and I think I think this would only work if, you know, where Amazon have got control of James Bond.
Oh, I
now.
forgot
It's
about the
fantastic.
Amazon business.
If they did a film of James Bond in the future, like a retired James Bond, how's he doing now? Kind of check in.
Well, it could work.
That could work.
I like Piers Brosnan, and he's a nice man as well.
Is he?
A really fun, friendly, no big ego.
He seems quite cool as well.
I think
he was a good Bond. He was a good Bond. I just don't know what's going to happen. I can't get my head around because Bond was killed in the last one.
Ah, but was he?
5 years ago.
I won't watch that one then. That's the only one I haven't seen yet.
I hate spoilers, but I mean, it was 5 years
Well, you've been
ago.
spoiled.
Okay, fine.
You've had time, to be fair.
So
who would you
how
like
did they
to
bring
be?
it back?
Who would you like to be Bond?
Henry Cavill.
OK, yeah.
Henry Cavill, I think, is the
It's a
man
good
for the
choice.
job. I think he's got to be at least British,
Yeah.
frankly. None of these Americans who want to have a go.
Yeah.
Age?
Well, what's Henry Cavill? He's about 40.
Must be in his
something like
40s.
that.
He's supposed to be. I think there is in the books, isn't he supposed to be about 32? Something like that, about 32, 35. There is an age for Bond.
Yeah.
Whereas, of course, Daniel Craig is 75 now. So,
Daniel Craig is much
boy,
older.
he was good.
Yeah, he was.
He was good.
very good.
See, I always thought Idris Elba would be very good.
I did.
But I think he's probably too old now.
Yeah, I think it's gone now. If he'd done another film more quickly.
Who's the other one they think? Aaron Taylor-Johnson, is that it?
Yeah, no.
Nah, it doesn't do it for me.
No. Henry Cavill, I think he'd be just fantastic.
OK. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's know what you think.
It'll work for me.
Who should be the next Bond? gbnews.com/your say.
But I'd definitely bring back Pierce Brosnan.
Definitely.
For a spin-off. Definitely.
Absolutely, 100%.
He controlled his car with his mobile phone, do you remember?
Yes.
Controlled car.
Yeah.
When that was the idea of...
But you know what?
Your phone was...
He was kind of funny with it as well. I like a little humour.
Bit of humour.
Yeah.
See, I
bit of that.
love
and he was
Roger
good.
Moore.
Yeah, Roger was good. Yes.
Anyway, enough of that nonsense. But do let us know, gbnews.com/your say.
Now, to our top story this morning, and a man has been convicted of raping his ex-girlfriend before using a crossbow to kill her, her sister and her mother.
Well, prosecutors revealed that Kyle Clifford watched multiple Andrew Tate videos in the 24 hours leading up to that attack.
The 26-year-old will be sentenced on all counts next Tuesday.
Let's talk to GB News presenter and former MP, of course, Miriam Cates. Miriam, good to see you this morning. It's a horrific crime. It's beyond imagining, and the sentencing on Tuesday will be a welcome relief for a lot of people. However, what are we to make of these links that have been made to videos he's watched online? Is it fair to throw blame at someone who has presented a video which contains nothing illegal?
Well, I think it is fair to blame the wider culture of what's going on online for the vast increase in sexual assaults that we're seeing. And of course, this is an absolutely horrific case, including both violence and sexual violence. They're absolutely tragic and awful. But since 2014, there has been an astonishing rise in rapes and sexual assaults in this country, and also amongst under 18s, an 80% rise in violence between under 18s in just the last few years alone. So something is going on. And on the face of it, it does sound a bit pathetic to say, oh, it's all Andrew Tate's fault. What does it matter what you watch online? It's legal speech. But I think we have to look at the much wider culture of pornography and misogyny that is online, and that young men particularly are now being brought up on. And I think, you know, some older adults who perhaps don't have teenagers kind of dismiss this and say, well, what does it matter what you see online? It doesn't affect you. It absolutely does affect boys. When the first image they see of sex, aged 11 or 12, is something horrifically violent, and 90% of online pornography videos are violent, extremely violent, then of course it affects what you think is normal about sex. And then if you add in the kind of grievance narratives that Andrew Tate perpetuates and others like him, you know, men are downtrodden, men are victims of feminism, you need to get your own back, which is the kind of message that people like Andrew Tate put out. It's a very, very potent message when there isn't a positive vision of masculinity, an idea of what men should be, how men can be good men, courageous and brave. It's a very, very dangerous vacuum. And it's no coincidence that the rise in sexual violence has followed the rise in internet pornography, the rise in broadband use. Pornhub was the 6th most visited site in the entire world last year. Higher than Twitter, higher than Bing, higher than ChatGPT. This is a huge phenomenon that we are just not understanding.
How do we tackle this then, Miriam?
Well, there was the results of the pornography review were published last week by Baroness Gabby Burton. This was a review commissioned by the last government that's been published now. And it has some very sensible suggestions. It points out that for years, before the internet, we regulated pornography very well in this country. We had a good definition of it. The BBFC decided what was legal and what wasn't. You certainly couldn't commit any acts of violence or anything that looked non-consensual. That was completely illegal material. You couldn't distribute it. But those rules don't apply online. And actually, sites like Pornhub and others have videos of real rapes, of real crimes, and they are proliferating, and they shouldn't be able to do that. So one of the ideas that Gabby Burton's had is much better age gating so that under 18s can't get on it, but also cracking down on those kind of illegal videos and using the BBFC to police it in the same way that they police offline pornography. But I think we've got to understand, how transformational it is to boys to have their sexual imprint brought up on violent pornography rather than previous understandings of respect and intimacy and all those kind of things. And of course, the individuals who commit these crimes are criminals. They are guilty, they should go to prison, and they should serve extremely long sentences. But we also need to look at the wider culture. Why are boys as young as 14 and 13 now committing rapes and sexual assault? Is because they're being taught what's normal and what women want and how to be a man through pornography and not through good fathers, good role models, good schooling.
Well, is it fair to say there aren't positive male role models? Because, most fathers are positive role models. There's teachers in schools, there's people on TV, there's good pop stars and all the rest of it. I mean, the fact there are one or two people who are catching the headlines doesn't mean that all male role models for young people nowadays are bad.
But unfortunately, Stephen, there are 2.5 million children in this country who don't have a father figure at home. And in the Lost Boys report that we've just published with the Centre for Social Justice, we found that 2/3 of young men themselves said that fatherlessness was now a principal cause of poor behaviour in boys. And the fact is that half of children in Britain by the age of 14 do not live with both biological parents. Now, fatherlessness affects girls, of course it does as well, but it's particularly bad for boys because they don't have that role model of what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a man who treats a woman well and with respect? What does it mean to be a man who uses natural physical advantages well and to serve women rather than to dominate them? It is an absolutely huge problem. So if you don't have a father at home and then everything you're seeing about manhood is Andrew Tate and pornography, it's a very, very potent mix. So it's very, very interesting. In this report, again, the polling, 70% of young women said that pornography was undermining the relationship between the sexes. It's a much higher proportion than people of older ages who just don't really understand this pornography culture and where it's come from.
OK, Miriam Cates, good to see you this morning. Thank you for your thoughts on that.
Raises an awful lot of questions, actually.
Yeah, some good points raised there as well. Let us know what you think on that one. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Now, EU President Ursula von der Leyen has rallied European leaders calling for nation-states to back Donald Trump in ending Ukraine's war with Russia.
We all want a peace through strength, a just and lasting peace, but a peace from a position of strength. And this is also in the interest of President Trump, to have a peace through strength. And if he wants to achieve this, it is only possible with the support of the European Union and its member states.
Well, EU nations were encouraged to boost defence spending following that ongoing pressure from President Trump.
Well, it comes as Mr. Trump insists the US will not defend NATO allies who refuse to increase their spending.
Well, I've said that to them. I said, if you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago. And because of that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. But even now, it's not enough. It's really not enough. They should be paying more.
Well, US-Ukraine peace talks are due to be held in Saudi Arabia next week, with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine saying he's hopeful for a meaningful meeting.
Let's talk to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. I mean, how things have changed in just over a week, Catherine.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's 3 weeks since the West was completely blindsided by Donald Trump picking up the phone to Putin and having a 1.5-hour chat. And since then, we've been on a really wild roller coaster ride over the last week, particularly when, as you say, Zelensky was literally booted out of the Oval Office because Trump and Vance took exception to his sort of what they perceived of lack of thanks for the United States support. I was with the Prime Minister in Merseyside yesterday talking to some of his team in Number 10. They said how, as many of us do, on a morning, you look at your phone wondering what on earth Donald Trump may have said overnight, and so it goes on. So the good news is it looks like peace talks are set to start with the US and Ukraine in Saudi Arabia next week. That will be great news for Ukraine, who of course have had bad news after bad news, day after day, with the US withdrawing military aid, withdrawing intelligence, even potentially dangling the prospect of withdrawing visas from 250,000 Ukrainians currently who've taken refuge in America. But this is also overnight these words from Trump saying, we don't know if we're going to defend you. If you're not paying, we're not going to. Also, saying, if we picked up the phone to Europe, would they be there for us? I'm not sure that they would. Seeming to forget how the only time NATO Article 5 was triggered was after September the 11th. And at that point, all Western allies absolutely did rally around the United States.
See you this morning. Thank you very much.
Right, how do you fancy getting your hands on one of our lovely prize bundles? A brand new iPhone 16, 500 quid in shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash? Well, there's 2 of those bundles up for grabs, but the lines close at 6 o'clock today.
It's the final day to see how you could become one of 2 big winners. As we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, as lines close at 6 p.m. today. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Now, did you know the King is quite the music fan? So much so, he's teamed up with Apple to spin his own discs. Have a listen to this.
Throughout my life, music has meant a great deal to me. It has that remarkable ability to bring happy memories, comfort us in times of sadness, and to take us to distant places. But perhaps, above all, it can lift our spirits to such a degree, and all the more so when it brings us together in celebration. In other words, it brings us joy. So this is what I particularly wanted to share with you, songs which have brought me joy. This seemed such an interesting and innovative way to celebrate this year's Commonwealth Day. Thank you for listening. I wish you all every possible blessing.
Well, there you go.
Do you know, I love him.
Yeah, I do too, and I love that song as well.
Just the way he delivers that, and wish you every possible blessing. What a man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just adore him. I adore him.
He's very like his late mother there, actually. I wish you every possible blessing. Very like her. Well, as you saw, the show is called The King's Music Room, where he's going to share his top tracks and opens up about his love of music.
Let's talk to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. When I first heard about this, I was sceptical that he'd picked this music himself. Watching that, I suspect he probably has.
I think he has, and I understand he will be sharing anecdotes with meeting some of these artists, of course, from across the Commonwealth, from across the decades, when this new show launches on Apple Music on Monday to mark Commonwealth Day. This was recorded in his office, and you know the show Desert Island Discs on Radio 4? I suspect this is the King's answer to that. It is his personal playlist, sharing happy memories of all these different music tracks which he loves from different Commonwealth artists. So we've got, as you heard, the household division just play there. We've got Bob Marley, Could It Be Love?
That was a great version.
Yeah.
Stop.
Thank you. OK, I'll stop. Kylie Minogue, we've got Grace Jones, and then some modern artists as well. We've got Davido and Ray. So it's going to be broadcast from 6 o'clock in the morning on Apple Music 1 on Monday.
Is it a one-off?
No, well, it's a one-off show, but then it's being broadcast, we believe, throughout the week on Apple Music. And it's interesting, I think, that the King has collaborated with Apple in particular, because he's not the first member of the royal family to do so. Both his sons, Prince William and Harry, have collaborated on separate projects. William did a mental health podcast, which name escapes me, apologies, on Apple Fitness Plus, called Time to Walk, talking about his time as an air ambulance pilot. Prince Harry did a mental health TV show with Oprah Winfrey, if you remember, back in 2021, when he appeared to suggest he didn't take too kindly to his father's parenting skills, saying that he wanted to break the cycle of genetic pain and suffering for the sake of his own children, which obviously didn't go down very well. But King Charles is clearly being a modern monarch. We believe this is the first time that a British monarch has hosted a podcast or a radio show of this kind. It was recorded, as I said, in his private office of Buckingham Palace with a little vintage on-air sign. And I think you got a sense, from that video that he's kind of just relaxing into his role as monarch, sharing his music tastes with the Commonwealth, the family of nations, of course, of which he is head of. So it should be quite a good celebration on Monday.
Yeah, do you think it will be a popular listen? Do you think lots of people will tune in?
Well, let's see if it breaks box office records. And, of course, we have seen Meghan Markle with her own Netflix series, or Meghan Sussex, as I should say now, she wants to be called. Will it get more streams than that? Possibly. I suppose the Commonwealth family of nations is made up of hundreds of millions, if not more than 1 billion people around the world who could all be tuning in, perhaps, to watch the King's music tastes of different artists.
I think it's great. I think it's really great, and he's got this warmth to him that is magical.
He does. You're
well
right.
done, sir. I approve.
Thank you, Cameron. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
See you too.
I hope we approve of the weather as well. I hope
So
the
do
sun
I.
continues to shine today. Aidan McGibbon's got all the details.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A big change in our weather today, depending on where you are. Less frost and fog in the south, cloudier for much of England and Wales, but for the northern parts of the UK, less unsettled compared with the past few days. Lighter winds, less rain. In fact, a brighter day to come north of the Central Belt, some parts of northwest Northern Ireland as well. Meanwhile, an area of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain will move northwards across western parts of England, into the north of England, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as parts of Wales. 1 or 2 showers breaking out elsewhere, but there'll still be some sunshine for East Anglia and the southeast, feeling pleasant here with highs of 16 Celsius. Elsewhere, feeling a little cooler because of the additional cloud cover. And for northern Scotland, well, temperatures will begin falling away after dusk under these clear skies, but at least it's significantly drier and less windy compared with the week so far. Throughout much of southern Scotland into Northern Ireland, northern England, parts of Wales and the west, we're going to see a lot of cloud as we end the day. Some outbreaks of rain here and there, but it's very showery in nature, so it'll be on and off. Further southeast, clear skies remain, although with a keen breeze coming up from the southeast, we're again going to largely avoid frost and fog overnight. In fact, we're going to see increasingly clear skies spread across much of England and Wales overnight, but for the far southwest, some heavy rain turns up by dawn. Temperatures generally mid to high single figures, a few pockets of colder spots out of the breeze, but a bright start to the day for much of England and Wales, and increasingly southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing brighter skies develop. An area of thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain will move north across northern Scotland, and again we're going to see some showers across the southwest, perhaps spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland at times. But where we've got the brighter skies, highs of 16, 17, perhaps even 18 Celsius.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, Egypt has discovered, well, I think it was a British and Egyptian team actually, finding the historic discovery, the long-lost tomb of King Thutmose II, the last of the lost tombs of the kings of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty.
Yes, and it's the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922.
A very exciting discovery, and here to tell us all about it is the historian and author Martin Whittock. Martin, the first royal tomb since Tutankhamun.
Indeed, and identified as King Thutmose II. Other pronunciations are also available. And as you say, it's the last of the lost tombs of Egypt's 18th dynasty. They ruled between about 1550 BC and 1292 BC. It had been known before this tomb since 2022 as Tomb C4, as its occupant was then unknown. But what's happened now is parts of alabaster vessels have been found which have inscriptions bearing the name of Pharaoh Thutmose II and identifying him as the deceased king, along, interestingly, with the name of his wife, Hatshepsut. Now, she's an interesting woman because after he died, she ruled as pharaoh in her own right, one of only 2 women to do so in ancient Egyptian history. Now, the mummy of King Thutmose II was actually discovered during the 19th century at a nearby archaeological site known as Deir el-Bahari Kashet, and it's thought it was moved there after it had been looted by tomb raiders centuries ago. So the tomb is not going to give us the kind of treasures that we associate with Tutankhamun, I'm afraid, but it shows us the architecture of these royal tombs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Oh.
No, you go.
Oh, should I?
Yes.
OK. It's 8:26. Now, there are calls for President Trump's state visit to be suspended because of his relationship with Russia.
So, how much of a role should King Charles play in keeping the Western alliance together?
Yes, should he use soft power, as it's called, to play peacemaker between the US and Europe? Does he actually need to? To be honest, does he need to? Because, I mean, Ursula von der Leyen's already saying, yes, we need to do what America wants and spend more money.
Spend more money on defence. But we know that President Trump loves the royals, right? So is it a trump card if the king gets involved? Well, to debate this now, we're joined by former senior gardener to the king, Jack Stooks, and the royal commentator, Richard Fitzwilliams. Very good morning to you both, gentlemen. Jack, let's start with you, shall we? Should the king play peacemaker?
I don't think it's wise. We've seen in the past, the last time a king decided to get involved in politics, he lost his head. So that's not the greatest start within that royal family. But no, I don't think he should. He should stay very much out of politics. Still have the president come over and speak with the president, see the president. I mean, whatever they talk about in private might be something completely different, but I don't see why they should be involved in politics, which I don't think it's in the Constitution that they should be.
I mean, part of the argument here, Richard, is actually not just about Europe, is it? It's about Canada. Because obviously Donald Trump has said, you know, Canada should be the America's 51st state, and the king has apparently mentioned to someone or reminded someone that he is the king of Canada, and so it would have to go through him. And in that sense, he's flexing his muscles, maybe?
Well, constitutionally, his role, I think, is clearly defined because he acts as King of Canada on the advice of the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Now, there are symbols that he sends out. For example, when he visited the aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales, he wore his Canadian medals. Royal sources have indicated there may well be a royal visit to Canada in 2026. Of course, we take into account the King's health, but that appears, fortunately, to be things seem to be going in the right direction there. There's also an issue that's just worth mentioning, and that is that Queen Elizabeth visited the United States twice as Queen of Canada. In 2026, there is, of course, America celebrates 250 years of its independence. You can imagine that Donald Trump will put on a terrific show. Now, there's always the possibility that a royal may attend. I'd have thought of possibly Prince William, who knows, and there might well be a visit to Canada before then. Of course, things are moving at an amazing speed. We have to bear in mind this unique second state visit that's been offered. Also, a visit to Balmoral to Planet. All of this, of course, is very time sensitive because it's not likely to happen anytime soon, the way things are moving. In the last 5 weeks, I think that no one's seen anything quite like it. But there's no question that when talks about a Trump card, President Trump is an admirer of the royal family. That's the one thing that I can say that has been consistent. And it's important also to remember when his first state visit, when he arrived with a helicopter on the lawn of Buckingham Palace, as Prince of Wales, he was welcomed by the then Prince Charles, and since then, the King has kept in touch with Trump by letter. All of this we saw just 8 days ago, the impression when that invitation was handed to President Trump. The situation is so awkward at the moment and things are so unpredictable. One thing that isn't is Trump's affection for the monarchy. And remember, regarding Canada, he knows that King Charles is head of state of Canada, and that too might be a break on anything he might consider doing.
Jack, what do you make of that?
No, I do hear what he's saying, but it's the fact that the King met with Zelensky very soon after what we saw happen in the White House, which irrelevant what the King might think, we all saw it and we sort of thought, well, what's going on? Why is there this huge big scene about the fact he didn't have a suit on and that he hadn't said thank you as soon as he walked in? That's pretty much the crux of what the problem has been. So the King inviting him to Sandringham and actually seeing him at Sandringham.
They point out that the problem is a great deal more than what President Zelensky was wearing.
So the fact that the King saw Zelensky when he invited him to Sandringham, surely he doesn't need to say any more than that. He's seen President Zelensky. He's said hello to him. He's obviously welcomed him into to his house at Sandringham, and the invitation to President Trump will probably still carry on and go ahead. I think they would be stupid to cancel it, because they're just then creating more and more of an issue. So to have the King have President Trump over, I'm sure they will discuss it. I'm sure there will be discussions. But as far as getting involved in politics, it's not something that the royal family have done. When we last saw Prince Harry get involved and say what he thought about politics, the press all jumped on him and all had their fair share of what he should and shouldn't be doing. And yet now here we are, in the same situation, but except it's the King.
All right, you two. It's fascinating. Good to see you both. Thanks very much.
Thank
you. Let us know what you think on that one. Do stay with us. Still to come, sport with Paul. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 41 and 42 towards the M62. In Greater Manchester, the A58's closed along York Street in Hayward after an accident. Gas Street also closed. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, there are long clockwise delays after an accident earlier between junctions 16 and 17 from Pendlebury to Prestwich. The queues back to junction 12 at the Eccles interchange. On the M56 in Greater Manchester, the outside lanes closed eastbound at junction 4 at Wythenshawe after an accident causing queues. Now, train services are suspended between Sheffield and Meadowhall because of a signalling problem. They've also been stopped between Sheffield and both Leeds and Doncaster. Eurostar train services have been stopped because of an incident near to Parry-Gare du Nord. And in Devon, the A382 is closed each way west of Kingstainton after an accident. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Paul's here with all the sport at 8:35. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll go through the European games very quickly.
Yeah.
Because it hurts.
Well, yes. You know, it's RZ. It sounds crazy. It said RZ, AZ at Alkmaar. Beat Spurs 1-0 in the Netherlands yesterday. So this is in the last 16 of the Europa League. They play 2 games. So there's one at home, one away. So the second leg is at Spurs next week. Lucas Bergwijn scored an own goal. Wasn't a good performance by Spurs. Real Sociedad won, Manchester United won. So Manchester United, they weren't great either, to be fair. And Rangers, though, they were the ones that did really well. 3-1 away at Fenerbahce, which is Jose Mourinho's team, and they were very good. And Jose is saying, you know, be careful, because the tie's not over yet. Should we have a look? Should we have a look? Let's have Jose. Let's have Jose.
They were pragmatic, as I was expecting. They were competitive, and they deserved the victory. The only thing I tell them is don't celebrate too much, because there is a second match to play. Is my only advice. Then if in the end of the second game they celebrate, I will congratulate them. But now, calm down, because it's not over.
Don't celebrate.
Calm down. Calm
Don't
down.
celebrate too much. I bumped into him once at in a tunnel. Well, actually, when I say it wasn't like a train tunnel, it was in the tunnel at the football Spurs at the football stadium. So I'd done a half time, and this is when he was with Chelsea, and he was so annoyed with the team. He was just stood outside like that. He wasn't in with the team. He was just leaning. And you know when you think, what do I say to someone? So I was like, all right. That was it. That was it. That was my exchange.
So British, I love it.
He said, yeah,
all right.
Don't get too excited. So Copenhagen won, Chelsea 2. So that is in the Europa Conference League. So then they've got the second leg. And again, Chelsea, not great, but at least it was a win away. So there we go.
Yeah. Can we talk about athletics and Jake Whiteman?
Yes. Actually, before we do, I do want to mention the indoors because we did have Jamie Balsh on yesterday, didn't we? And in the mixed 4x400 metre relay, which is the mixed 2 women, 2 men, Britain got bronze. So well done to them.
Well done.
Well done, bronze. I guess it's not gold, but beaten by the Netherlands and Belgium. But, Jake Whiteman. Now, Jake Whiteman, one of our finest middle distance runners, and he's coached by his dad, Jeff. Now, we mentioned this an hour ago, briefly. Now, Jeff is also not only a coach, but there he is. There's Jeff on the left. There's his mum, and then there's Jake there in the middle. That was at the World Championship when they won gold. And there was a fantastic moment where Jeff is actually commentating to the stadium and gets very excited because obviously his son is winning the gold medal, and it was a great moment. Now, Jake's had a few problems with injuries since then, hasn't really reached those heights, but he's split now with his dad as his coach, which has got to be a tricky situation, don't you think?
What went on there? That's what I want to know.
See, I don't even know whether it's... But if you've got a family member and if you're going to split when it's business, then obviously then there's family as well.
Decision. Might have been Jeff's call.
I hope it is OK. I know for a fact that he was quite tough on him. Quite tough on Jake. Jake would often say that, there wasn't often praise, but often you get that with coaches anyway. So he went on to say, so he put a social media post out saying, we ensure there's plenty more come in the future, not as coach stroke athlete, but as father stroke son, away from the intensity and stress of training and racing.
Well, that matters.
You can kind of read between the lines there, can't you? So it seems like it was the best thing for the family that then they move on from their professional relationship.
Yeah, well, if it's good for their personal relationship, all good.
Absolutely.
Can we play birthdays?
We can play birthdays.
Woohoo!
Lots of sporting, but we haven't done many this week.
No, I feel like we need some.
But today's a good day for sporting birthdays.
OK.
First one, OK, goalkeeper, let's see him. Jordan Pickford. England and Everton. How old is Jordan today?
29.
Please, 29. Ellie. Stephen?
32.
31 is the answer. Close, either side. Let's go with another one. We're going to go darts. Gerwyn Price, former world champion. You know, Gerwyn always gets a tough...
Dude.
Yeah, do you reckon they'll even boo him on his birthday?
Yeah,
Do you reckon they would?
I hope not.
I don't know, it's a hard one to call with darts players.
It is very... Yeah, that's it.
I feel like they always look older.
See, darts, and also the way they would dress in the slacks. They can't wear jeans, by the way. Do you know it's illegal?
Is it?
They won't allow them to wear jeans when they're playing darts.
38.
38 for Gerwyn Price.
I'm going to go 41 then.
Again, both of you, brilliant, but either side, 40.
I mean, I think we're quite good at this.
It's been closer each time, I'm just pointing
OK, well, close, no cigar, all that stuff. Right, this is Ivan Lendl, former world #1. He was coach to Andy Murray as well for a while. Great tennis player. Never won Wimbledon, though. Won everything else apart from Wimbledon. Ivan Lendl, how old today?
46.
46. I'm going to let you go again. So we're going to talk. We're talking 80s. Early 80s was probably his prime.
60.
Oh, was it?
60?
Well, that picture's a bit...
60.
No, don't blame the picture. Come on.
Early 80s, then, prime, he's going to be 71.
65.
OK.
65. Two more?
Yeah.
OK, we're going to get there in the end. I'm going to go through every famous birthday until we get one. Viv Richards, one of the greatest batsmen of all time. Viv Richards, Somerset and West Indies.
75.
75 of Viv Richards. He's in the ballpark.
73.
3 is the right answer. Happy birthday, Viv Richards, 73. And the final one, Stephen, is very unhappy. Mary Earps. There she is.
I like Mary Earps.
Former
I like
Sports Personality of the Year, one of our goalkeepers.
27.
She's 27.
28.
She's a little older. She's 32. Happy birthday, Mary Earps.
She won't mind because we think she looks younger.
Absolutely, you'll be OK with her.
OK. Happy birthday, everybody.
Excellent. I like that.
There you go.
I love playing
birthday.
birthdays.
You know, I was pretty impressed.
And I am the victor.
You are.
I should have a little crown or something.
Listen.
More than you, darling, more than you.
Yes, that's true. Right. Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Coity.
Have a lovely weekend.
Right, if you
nice
fancy a bit
weekend.
of winter sun, all right, you too. If you fancy a bit of winter sun, let's see what it's like at the top European holiday destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're wondering if there's any scope for winter sun in the Mediterranean at the moment, well, Greece is your best bet. Mostly fine here, but absolutely horrendous weather across Iberia, Madeira, into the Canary Islands. Of course, we had the flash flooding a day or two ago in Gran Canaria. We've also got the risk of river flooding and flash flooding across Spain, Portugal, into the Balearics. Meanwhile, most of Italy fine away from the far south, and Greece largely fine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Getting into medicine at a very early age, you had an interest when you were really, really young, didn't you?
I did. I decided to go to medicine when I was 8. And that was based on the stories my father used to tell me about my grandfather, who I never met, because my grandfather died when he was 11.
Yeah.
And he was in the military, and he was stationed up in the Himalayas. And he was a doctor in the military. And not only did he serve in the military, but he also served his patients. And he served them to the degree where he would go out and he'd take them supplies, and he'd really look after them and make sure that they were not just well, but could live and survive. And it was on a day when he was out there helping his patients. There was a storm up in the Himalayas.
Wow.
And he was out there taking blankets and clothes and food up to them. And on the way back, as he was coming down the Himalayas, there was a landslide which took his Jeep over the edge, and he perished in that. So he gave his life to his service. And it was these stories about my grandfather, what he did and how he helped people, that really inspired me to follow in his footsteps. Not necessarily to go into the military, but to go into medicine.
But he's left a wonderful legacy, because fast forward, you came to this country when you was 4, and you've studied medicine.
Yep.
And you do, we were talking earlier about DNA. You're looking at DNA, looking at people's DNA. You can do profiles on people, predict. Well, you can actually say with some accuracy where they've lived in the past, what jobs they've done, and what medically may happen to them in the future.
Yeah. And I think, over the last, we've been looking at the gene. There was a Human Genome Project last century, which finished.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 8:46. We're going through the papers with former Conservative advisor Lauren McKevitt and the broadcaster Alex Dyke. Morning, you two.
Morning.
And Lauren, you're very keen to talk to us about Canadian and Mexican tariffs.
Yes.
And you promise us it's interesting.
It is interesting, I swear. Basically, Donald Trump, after a fairly impressive stock exchange tumble yesterday, has issued a reprieve on some of the tariffs that he's trying to implement on Canada and Mexico. Ordinarily a fairly dry story until you work out all the other things that are coming alongside it, like Commerce Secretary is talking about how cheap products are not part of the American dream, when in fact, I would argue that a big chunk of them are a part of the American dream. And when you begin to talk about what Canada could do against the United States in this issue, they're talking about, the governor of Ontario is talking about cutting off 1.5 million people from power sources that are supplied by Canada to New York, Michigan and Minnesota. And one of the really interesting suggestions I saw online this morning, Pornhub is a Canadian-owned and operated company. It's the 16th largest, most viewed website in the world. And shutting that down might change American voters' minds pretty quickly about Donald Trump. And, you know, reciprocity in trade wars is something that can get really spicy really quickly. So it is a dry subject, but it is worth paying attention to, because on the other side of this argument, you have tariffs against China and the Chinese government tweeting out that they are prepared for a war of any nature with the United States. So trade wars can spill into other things really, really quickly. Anybody who's ever watched Star Wars can tell you that.
Yes, true.
And so it is worth paying attention to them, dry as they might be.
Yeah. No, very interesting. All right, should we talk about teeth?
Oh.
Brushing teeth.
And bananas.
And bananas.
Were you holding bananas?
I thought that's where we were going, so I held up the prop. But apparently it's not where we're going.
Bananas isn't on the list.
Oh,
What about
We're
bananas?
going to have to smile instead with those lovely teeth of
No,
yours.
nothing about bananas.
I've got the banana story here in the Sun.
Excellent.
We've got no bananas apparently, according to the Sun. Shops are running out in Britain because of really bad weather. Have you two read this story?
We haven't read this, but that headline, yes, we have no bananas. That's an old song.
It is an old song.
Yes. Oh, that's
They've
we
done
have
very
no
well.
bananas.
Oh, thank
we
you.
have no bananas today.
Possibly indicating the average age of the subs department at the Sun there. But, you know, this is 5 years almost to the day since the banana bread epidemic of the beginning of COVID. So perhaps everybody's celebrating by going out and panic buying bananas.
Can I just point out, if we have no bananas,
How am I going to eat my porridge?
why have we been able to go out and immediately buy some bananas as a prop?
Well, maybe there's not a shortage right here.
Yeah, maybe it's only the one shop that chap went into.
Poor weather in the Pacific means that South American vessels bound for Europe were stranded at ports, meaning there's going to be a shortage of bananas from this week. So already Tesco and M&S have mentioned that they've got issues, empty shelves there. But it depends where you are.
Is this because of the massive cyclone that's going to hit Australia?
Let's say yes.
I'm going to say yes.
No idea, but
there's some massive prawn statue in Australia that's had one of its antenna knocked off because of that.
You need to stick those on eBay now.
I should, really.
Before they go off.
And I've just eaten one. I was very wasteful.
Goodness me!
You know how to peel a banana?
I can peel a banana with a knife and fork.
Okay, because monkeys hold that as a hand. They use that bit as a handle.
Do they? Go on then, demonstrate.
So you squeeze the tip like that, and then it just pulls.
Do you, Stephen?
You just pulls apart in half.
That was really good.
And that's how monkeys do it.
Oh, that was very good.
Wow.
So there you go.
You better eat that now. Don't waste it, 'cause there's a shortage.
Exactly.
Come on.
No, I'm all right, thank you.
Do you want to hear a fun fact about bananas?
No.
Always.
It's the most commonly bought item in a British supermarket.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. I'm not
sorry.
stupid.
I bet loads are bought that people never ever get round to eating before they go black, though. They're probably the
I always
most
let
chucked
mine go
away
black.
thing.
I feel bad now. I've got a black one at home.
But these ones, this particular variety have a good longevity. That's why they're the most common ones in supermarkets. The little ones that you get when you're in the tropics, and they don't last at all, so they never really make it onto our shelves in the supermarkets. But they're much nicer.
All right. We've got time, yes, we have. Can we have a look at the Express, Alex?
Yeah.
And Croft's youngest winner.
Oh, this guy, little Freddie, he's so cute. Have you seen the pictures? He's got his little tweed suit on. And the headline read something like this: walking tall, this little lad, after becoming Croft's youngest ever winners. This is such good news for children, because I always think if you put children with pets,
yes,
they treat animals so well from a young age, hopefully, and then they treat people better, because they're used to having something to look after around the house. So anyway, the dog is Penny, a smooth fox terrier, so they're really going to go up now in children's estimations when they see this story. It's a lovely story. It was the first day of the NEC's Crufts. It's just a lovely, lovely story under the headline of Puppy Love.
I liked his tweed two-piece.
Yeah, he's a right sweet, he is.
And the bow tie.
And the bow tie.
The bow tie is adorable.
Is he kneeling there? Is the dog actually half the size?
No, he's kneeling.
No, he's kneeling.
Look at him there, look. Oh, bless him.
He is a little sweetie.
Oh, and the dog's cute.
But Alex is right. You know, giving children responsibility with pets, I think, is incredibly important. Not just having pets, but giving them responsibility with
very good,
pets.
because it teaches them about death.
Absolutely, but it also teaches them about responsibility.
Yeah, that's what
towards
hamsters
others.
are for, not dogs.
No, and dogs. No, and dogs. It's very good for them to look.
Also,
when a pet inevitably dies, it's very good for children because they learn about loss.
Also, golly, the attrition rate on hamsters is atrocious. So it's learning about death on an almost annual basis.
But he does say this is not just my pet, my best friend too.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But it teaches children about responsibility towards other beings, which is an incredibly important skill to learn really, really early on.
I've got a story here about SpaceX. The Starship rocket has exploded during a test flight, Lauren.
Yes, I enjoy the the statement that they've given out, which reminded me. Do you remember Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin when they divorced? They consciously uncoupled.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, in that really euphemistically termed fashion. The SpaceX rocket had a rapid unscheduled disassembly.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Oh, very good.
Which really reminded me of the conscious uncoupling thing.
That's lovely.
And there's a lot about SpaceX that reminds me of, or sort of indicates to me that Elon Musk is having just the most pronounced and public midlife crisis of anyone in the world ever. You know, everything is sort of phallic shaped and.
But he's helping NASA, isn't he? I mean, all the money.
I think he wants to
putting
take
into
over
this.
NASA.
Oh, NASA, I mean, NASA are furious.
NASA are really furious.
Last time it was a long time ago when I was at NASA, and things like they would not have a picture of the. It was Obama then, but because Obama cut all the funding to allow all the private companies to move in, and they were just livid.
Which is why we have 2 astronauts stuck on the International Space Station, and they've been up there for how many more months than they were supposed to be?
About 8.
It's unbelievable. And Donald Trump is now speculating that they must be together now, because how else could you survive on an International Space Station? Yeah, he said it in his address yesterday evening that he presumed something must be going on.
But it's important.
Will be delighted by that one.
I know he's taking a bit of a pounding at the moment, but he's upgrading lots of space systems and aviation systems for America. He's doing good work with this. I mean, let's be honest, NASA.
Well, yeah, the cleanup crews are going to have a boomer time getting rid of all this stuff.
And NASA haven't put a man on the moon since 1972.
To be fair, nor has Elon Musk.
No.
Well,
there you
still
go.
time.
Oh, it's all getting controversial about space. Who would have thunk it? Right, you two, thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
to
much.
see you today.
Let's get a check on the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A big change in our weather today, depending on where you are. Less frost and fog in the south, cloudier for much of England and Wales, but for the northern parts of the UK, less unsettled compared with the past few days. Lighter winds, less rain, in fact a brighter day to come north of the central belt, some parts of northwest Northern Ireland as well. Meanwhile, an area of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain will move northwards across western parts of England, into the north of England, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as parts of Wales. 1 or 2 showers breaking out elsewhere, but there'll still be some sunshine for East Anglia and the southeast, feeling pleasant here with highs of 16 Celsius. Elsewhere, feeling a little cooler because of the additional cloud cover. And for northern Scotland, well, temperatures will begin falling away after dusk under these clear skies, but at least it's significantly drier and less windy compared with the week so far. Throughout much of southern Scotland into Northern Ireland, northern England, parts of Wales and the west, we're going to see a lot of cloud as we end the day. Some outbreaks of rain here and there, but it's very showery in nature, so it'll be on and off. Further southeast, clear skies remain, although with a keen breeze coming up from the southeast, we're again going to largely avoid frost and fog overnight. In fact, we're going to see increasingly clear skies spread across much of England and Wales overnight, but for the far southwest, some heavy rain turns up by dawn. Temperatures generally mid to high single figures, a few pockets of colder spots out of the breeze, but a bright start to the day for much of England and Wales, and increasingly southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing brighter skies develop. An area of thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain will move north across northern Scotland, and again we're going to see some showers across the southwest, perhaps spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland at times. But where we've got the brighter skies, highs of 16, 17, perhaps even 18 Celsius.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Greater Manchester, the A58 is closed in both directions along York Street in Haywood after an accident. Gas Street is also closed there. In Flintshire, the A541 is closed in both directions between Allen Lane and Chester Road in Mould after an accident. In Norfolk, the A47 is closed in both directions at North Birmingham after an accident causing queues. Eurostar train services have been suspended after the discovery of an unexploded World War II bomb near to Paris Gare du Nord. There are large queues forming in the Paris terminal. You're advised to change travel to a different day. In Devon, the A382 is closed west of Kingstainton after an accident, and Skybus flights between Land's End and the Isles of Scilly are on hold because of poor weather conditions. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could be one of 2 big winners in our latest giveaway, as we have 2 prize bundles that have to be won. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, lines close on the 7th of March. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Details of the crossbow killer's rampage come to light.
26-year-old Kyle Clifford is found guilty of rape, as prosecutors reveal he watched up to 10 Andrew Tate videos in the days leading up to his deadly attack.
Earlier, we got the view of the Shadow Justice Minister, Dr. Kieran Mullen, and the Health Minister, Stephen Kinnock.
Millions of us in this country have access to that same content, and it doesn't lead to us committing these sorts of horrific acts. So people are responsible for their own actions.
That when the Online Safety Act comes into force, it will bring some important checks and balances into the system.
Well, at the heart of all of this is the loss of 3 women, Louise, Hannah and Carol Hunt.
Gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Well, just 1 week after that White House debacle, is a peace deal actually back on the cards? That's as President Zelensky prepares to enter peace talks.
Yes, a little bit of good news for Ukraine heading back for peace talks next week, but worrying noises coming from Donald Trump. I'll bring you the latest shortly.
Breaking news this morning that Eurostar trains are cancelled after an unexploded World War II bomb is found on the railway tracks near Paris, with travellers told to stay at home.
Well, the epicentre of the problem may well be at Gare du Nord in Paris, but the effects are also being felt here in the UK as passengers arriving at London's St Pancras for the Eurostar are being turned away.
A reversal in fortunes for many of us today. Cloudier skies where we've seen so much sunshine, but sunnier skies where we've seen so much wind and rain during the last few days. Full details coming up soon.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, let's kick straight off with our main news this morning. And a man has been convicted of raping his former girlfriend before using a crossbow and knife to kill her her sister and her mother.
Well, prosecutors have revealed that Kyle Clifford watched at least 10 Andrew Tate videos in the 24 hours leading up to that deadly attack.
Well, he's 26 years old. He's going to be sentenced on Tuesday. And earlier we spoke to our colleague and former MP, Miriam Cates.
Well, I think it is fair to blame the wider culture of what's going on online for the vast increase in sexual assaults that we're seeing. And of course, this is an absolutely horrific case, including both violence and sexual violence. They're absolutely tragic and awful. But since 2014, there has been an astonishing rise in rapes and sexual assaults in this country, and also amongst under 18s, an 80% rise in violence between under 18s in just the last few years alone. So something is going on. And on the face of it, it does sound a bit pathetic to say, oh, it's all Andrew Tate's fault. What does it matter what you watch online? It's legal speech. But I think we have to look at the much wider culture of pornography and misogyny that is online, and that young men particularly are now being brought up on. And I think, you know, some older adults who perhaps don't have teenagers kind of dismiss this and say, well, what does it matter what you see online? It doesn't affect you. It absolutely does affect boys. When the first image they see of sex, aged 11 or 12, is something horrifically violent, and 90% of online pornography videos are violent, extremely violent, then of course it affects what you think is normal about sex. And then if you add in the kind of grievance narratives that Andrew Tate perpetuates and others like him, you know, men are downtrodden, men are victims of feminism, you need to get your own back, which is the kind of message that people like Andrew Tate put out. It's a very, very potent message when there isn't a positive vision of masculinity, an idea of what men should be, how men can be good men, courageous and brave. It's a very, very dangerous vacuum.
That was Miriam Cates speaking to us a little bit earlier on in the programme.
Now, the EU President, Ursula von der Leyen, has rallied European leaders calling for nation-states to back President Trump in ending Ukraine's war with Russia.
We all want a peace through strength, a just and lasting peace, but a peace from a position of strength. And this is also in the interest of President Trump, to have a peace through strength. And if he wants to achieve this, it is only possible with the support of the European Union and its member states.
Well, EU nations were encouraged to boost defence spending following that ongoing pressure from President Trump.
Well, Mr. Trump insists the US will not defend NATO allies who refuse to increase their spending.
Well, I've said that to them. I said, if you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago. And because of that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. But even now, it's not enough. It's really not enough. They should be paying more.
Well, US-Ukraine peace talks are due to be held in Saudi Arabia next week, with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine saying he's hopeful for a meaningful meeting.
Let's talk to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. I mean, this has been so up and down over the last few weeks, Catherine. How seriously can we take this apparent step forward?
That's an excellent question. It's been a really wild roller coaster, hasn't it? Since 3 weeks ago, Trump picked up the phone to Putin and they talked for an hour and a half. The last week in particular, since Zelensky was booted out of the Oval Office, we've seen so many summits, so many meetings, so many steps forwards and backwards. But today, a little bit of good news. First of all, that peace talks between the United States and Ukraine are set to begin in Saudi Arabia this week. Trump had previously said that he didn't think Zelensky was ready for peace, but the letter that Zelensky sent during the week to Trump seems to have done the job. And of course, those very big sticks that the US has been using to get Ukraine to look at peace, talking about, taking military aid, taking intelligence away from them, have been very, very effective. Another piece of good news is that Europe seems to have finally, long overdue, had a big wake-up call, which they have actually heeded. And meeting in Brussels yesterday, European leaders announcing 800 billion euros in defence. Of course, our own Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer announced last week an increase in defence spending here to 2.5% of GDP. I was with him in the Northwest yesterday. He's keen to point out that this is going to lead to lots more jobs, he says, here in the UK for British workers. So lots of positive noises, and our Defence Secretary John Healey met with the US counterpart Pete Hegseth yesterday in Washington. They say they're very encouraged by what they're hearing from Europe and from Ukraine and from Britain, and suggesting that the ban on intelligence and weapons is only temporary. But as so often, you go to bed and you wake up and Donald Trump has said something quite worrying. Today, we wake to the news that he has talked about saying, if you don't pay, I'm not going to defend them, talking about NATO members who may not be paying their way. He's also said that he's not convinced that people like France, countries like France, might have America's back if needed. Seems to forget what happened after 9/11, the only time that Article 5 of NATO was triggered. And of course, many European NATO nations did rally to the United States defence.
OK, Catherine, for now, thank you.
Now, at 8 minutes past 9, that breaking news this morning that thousands of Eurostar passengers are stranded in Paris after a World War II bomb was discovered on a train track at Gare du Nord.
Well, all Eurostar services between London and Paris have been cancelled. Travellers are told to try and move their trips till later, but of course those trains are already, the later trains, already booked up.
Well, let's cross live now to St Pancras Station, where GB News reporter Sophie Reaper is this morning. Disruption in Paris, but also disruption in London, Sophie.
Yes, good morning to you both. Absolutely, the epicentre might be at Gare du Nord in Paris, but as you say, the effects will be felt not just here in London, but of course around much of Europe. Now, as we understand it, this unexploded World War II bomb was discovered between two train tracks during routine works on the railway, and now Gare du Nord is saying that there will be major disruption over the coming hours as they call the demining process taking place. Now, in terms of what's being affected, we're looking at major travel disruption across the board, whether that's local metro services, whether it's commuter trains or national and international services, of course, including the Eurostar starting here at London St Pancras. Now, taking to their platform on X, Eurostar have said, due to an object on the tracks near Paris Gare du Nord, we are expecting disruption to our services this morning. Please change your journey for a different date of travel. Now, if you go inside London St Pancras this morning, at least half of those trains are already saying cancelled, and I'm sure there will be more to follow. But as I say, this isn't just London. Gare du Nord is the third busiest station in the world, so it serves much of Europe. So as you can imagine, the travel disruption this morning will be massive and it will be widespread.
OK, Sophie, I know you'll keep us up to date, but for now, thank you.
Now, at 10 minutes past 9, it's the final week. In fact, it's the final
day.
Few hours to see how you could win one of two amazing prize bundles in our latest Great British Giveaway.
Yes, you can both of you, get a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers and £10,000 in cold, hard cash. Lines close at 6 o'clock today.
It's the final day to see how you could become one of two big winners. As we have two prize bundles that have to be won. There's two lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. Hurry, as lines close at 6 p.m. today. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's British Pie Week this week. We've been eating pies all week, haven't we? We love them. Ian's been in touch saying, "Hi Ellie, I know you love pies." Thanks, Ian. In the northwest, butter pies are very. It's clearly you love pies. In the northwest, butter pies are very popular, and many towns claim to have invented them. Fun fact: they were invented by Catholics to replace meat and potato pies because of the No Meat Friday rule. Yes, they are worshipped, and apparently there's a pie war. They're worshipped, yes. And apparently there's a pie war going on across all the various pie shops. They all claim to be the best.
Well,
that's from Ian in Lincoln.
And he sent us a lovely poem about butter pies.
He did, yeah.
Which is very nice. We haven't got time to read it all out.
It's quite a long one, but yes, we appreciate that.
Anyway, we're talking more about pies in a moment.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tom Pickup, host of the Really 007 podcast. Hello, Tom. Thank you very much for joining. I've just been singing Live and Let Die to myself for some random reason. So what's going on here, then? Is Bond going to be changed forever? I mean, Barbara Broccoli was pretty hands-on and tough with what happened to that.
Yeah, you've got to think that this goes back to 1962 when it all started with Sean Connery and Dr. No. Her father, Cubby Broccoli, got the film rights and began the franchise and the movie character we all know as James Bond. So it's a big change. It was always going to come to an end eventually. Barbara took over pretty much when her father died, before GoldenEye, when Pierce Brosnan was the new Bond. But she's really had all the control with her half-brother, Michael G. Wilson, who's the other producer on Eon, since then, since 95, really. And they didn't cast Pierce Brosnan themselves. That was Cubby's casting. Their real casting was Daniel Craig. And I think now that that chapter has come to an end, and whether you liked it or not, it had a very definite ending, maybe that's been part of the reason where they think they'd rather spend their time in retirement doing something else. It's time to pass it on. And they've got a ready-made partner already in Amazon.
Is it going to get a little bit woke, though, Tom?
I've no idea, but all I know is that Jeff Bezos obviously is head of Amazon. He's already put a tweet up or on X saying, "Who do you want as the new James Bond?"
Oh, okay.
So he's already including the fans, which I suppose is a good thing. Whether or not we'll have a say, we don't know. But I think what it'll be is what people want, what people on the outside see as James Bond, not necessarily super fans like me.
The People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Now, the historic British Pie Awards returned to Melton Mowbray, famed for its pork pies, of course.
Yeah, we actually had those on Monday. Dreadful.
For the 17th year. Today, the supreme champion of pies will be announced.
And it's not me. But our reporter Anna Riley visited a bakery in South Yorkshire who are hoping to take home the gold.
We've got a steak and ale as the most popular one. That's the one that's in the British Pie Awards. We've got chicken. We do a just steak. All the steak is slow cooked overnight, and then we shred it and mix it with Tracy's signature gravy. We've also now been able to put fruit pies on, and we do quiches as well.
This family-run pie shop in Dinnington is going for a big win at the British Pie Awards. The busy South Yorkshire store has only been open for 6 weeks, and already it's hoping for a prize for its pies.
It's British tradition. You know, it lets especially independent people like us to get his name out there, especially if we win the award. Everybody loves a good pie, especially with we do meals with the mash and the chips and the peas and the gravy. We'll put baked beans on if they want them. It's just tradition, isn't it? Everybody loves a good pie.
For the customers here, pies are one of Britain's best dishes.
They're always full of goodness, aren't they? Hearty, filling, and you could put them with so many things, different vegetables, different types of potatoes. Yeah, just good all-rounder.
Feel-good food, innit? Pies, yeah. It's not like takeaway food, it's just feel-good food. Feel at home,
If it's got a nice filling and a nice pastry, there's nothing better. But just like them, the easy meals. My family love all the pies here. I've come in about 3 times a week this week, especially the quiches that you can see coming out of the oven. They're freshly made, you can take them home and freeze them.
So here we go, we've got the Handmade Pie Company's steak and ale pie, the one that's been entered for the awards. Let's give it a try. That is absolutely delicious. The meat's perfect quality. The pastry's gorgeous, and it's been paired with some mash, some chips, and some mushy peas. 10 out of 10. Hannah Riley, GB News.
Best story she's ever done.
Ah.
That, Anna Riley, I bet she loved that. What was it, steak and ale she was having?
Yeah, steak and ale, but with mash and chips, which I think is quite a lot of carbs for, including in pie. Anyway, she said it was amazing.
Anne's been in touch. Anne Thirlwell. Morning, Anne. She
Not
says,
our Anne Diamond.
No. So, have you never had a greens pie from Barrow, which is where I'm from? Their cheese and onion is as good as the meat and potato.
Oh, well, you're going to have to give... Potato.
Greens. I don't know if I've ever been to Greens.
You're going to have to give that a go, I think, next time you're at home. Where is that?
Where's what?
Where is Greens? Do you know?
No, I don't know where Greens is. I'm trying to think what the pie shop was we used to go to back in the day. I can't remember now.
See,
it was on the high street.
See, in Essex, the pies that you have would be like the pies with liquor sauce.
Oh, liquor.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the problem started for you.
It's a different kind of pie in East London and Essex. Maureen says, here near Preston, in the northwest, butter pies are delicious and baked on the premises.
See, I've never had a butter pie.
We're learning a lot this morning.
Butter pie sounds perfect, though. Potato and onion, basically.
Yeah, you'd like that. No meat.
It's like a Welsh onion pie, only they're not in pastry. Oh, it's very complicated.
It is. You've all got views on that.
Nana and Ben are sat here drooling.
How are you getting on with that moustache beardy thing going on? Is it?
Do you get pie stuck in it?
I haven't had a pie since I've had it.
Is it not?
No, what do you mean, how am I getting on with it?
Yeah, I think it's...
You get some...
Do you like it, Nana?
You hated it last week.
Beginning to. It's kind of growing on me.
Don't you think it looks very manly?
On you.
Don't you think it looks very manly? The women are loving it, Nana.
I like it.
You like it?
Oh, and Ben.
Well, you should do it as well, Ben. You should do it as well.
No, Ben would be all right. You've got a bit of sort of stubbly stuff going on there.
You should do it, Ben.
Do you get pastry sort of flakes stuck in it?
Well, I haven't had it. I'm on a diet.
Is it?
I'm on a diet, so I can't. I'm not eating anything exciting at the minute. It's very depressing, but, it's got to be done when you reach my age. You've got to keep on top of the weight.
How are you doing that? Exercise or just watching what you eat?
Food, it's mostly food.
Slimming World.
It's been very strict.
They just give you very small portions, which is why...
No, they don't. No, you eat loads on Slimming World, but other diets are available. It's fats. There's no fat in it.
No fat. There's nothing wrong with fat. It's sugar. Sugar's the problem.
Well...
Your body needs fat. Fat stores vitamins.
I've cut sugar for Lent.
Very sensible. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that after my oat milk hot chocolate and my cake that I have every day. Every time I come in, I'll do it after that.
Well, you don't need to worry about anything like that, Nana.
You don't either. Come on, Ellie.
Oh, no, she's
thinner than me. She's nothing of you, darling.
But, day 3, no sugar. Have you given up anything for Lent, Ben?
Day 3.
Giving anything up? Not really. I've had a really hectic couple of weeks, so I just can't... My mind is swirling.
Can I ask? Because I thought of this last week. You've got a Union Jack flag on.
Yes, sir.
Is that work sanctioned, or you just do it?
I'd hope so.
Or you just do it yourself?
Great British News. What do you mean? Is it work sanctioned?
You might get stopped going into some shops.
Have you just decided to do it yourself?
Oh no! So I just decided to do it.
I like it.
It's quite. It's an American import, I guess.
It is
you
American
see it with
import.
the senators and the congressmen and women.
Yeah.
But I think we need a bit more patriotism.
Some
It's
people...
easy to moan about the country. sometimes justified, but also at the same time, I think we should be proud of.
Well, I
think it's nice to see.
I really like it. I think
I've got a spare one in my bag if you want one.
Yeah,
Can I have it?
I think we, as a, I'm going to say the bosses might be listening. I think we, as a channel, should wear those. We are GB News.
Yes,
I think we should. I think all the men, at least, should have them on their lapels. I think it's a great idea.
No, do you remember that woman who got stopped in Liberties because they said she was wearing a flag? It was a Palestinian flag, but they said you're not coming in. But maybe they'll have a carte blanche rule that you can't get in there with any flag.
Well, I'd like them to stop you.
Well, I tell you what,
wearing a British flag.
I thought we should wear flags.
I got them from a couple of quid each from an online marketplace, and you can have them for £10 each if you want.
Yeah, all right. Well, no, it's good. I like
my wage.
I like the market economy version. Can't argue with that. A bit of capitalism. What's happening in your show before we run out of time?
Teeth. Helping children clean their teeth. Should the parents be doing it?
Yes.
Or should it be a school thing?
It's costing £11 million.
OK, so
this programme.
It's interesting. These two. Have you got any children?
No.
Have you?
No.
Right. Ask us the same question.
Have you got any children?
Well, yes, but who should do it?
Who should do it?
Who should do it?
Oh, sorry. Who should clean their teeth?
I've just stopped, but my youngest boy, who's 2, I was having to pin him down and brush his teeth.
But that's what you've got to do, right?
It was an ordeal. You have to do it. And I just think if you've got parents who aren't prepared to do that, or they think they're getting tired of doing it, tooth decay is the #1 reason for childhood admissions to hospital in the UK. And I know people talk about the nanny state and saying that the government shouldn't be brushing our children's teeth. However, I think this is such an important issue. I don't think for 11 million quid, yes, it's a lot of money, but I think it will save
money in the end.
It will save a lot more, I think, on the NHS.
I agree, 100%. I love the fact that somebody else will teach my little Ivory to clean his teeth.
Well, I think... Oh, you lazy
I'm surprised with you two.
I'm really surprised.
Because you haven't got any children.
Teachers have got better things to do than clean your children's teeth.
Teaching them, I think, is what that's about, and that's teaching. It's all part of it.
OK.
Give over. Honestly,
Nana,
that's extremely woke. Woke.
You get some children and change your mind. You'll change your mind.
Honestly, Nana, a queer, who'd have thought it. Right, you two, we shall see you a little bit later on, well, in about 5 minutes.
And here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A big change in our weather today, depending on where you are. Less frost and fog in the south, cloudier for much of England and Wales, but for the northern parts of the UK, less unsettled compared with the past few days. Lighter winds, less rain, in fact, a brighter day to come north of the central belt, some parts of northwest Northern Ireland as well. Meanwhile, an area of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain will move northwards across western parts of England, into the north of England, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as parts of Wales. 1 or 2 showers breaking out elsewhere, but there'll still be some sunshine for East Anglia and the southeast, feeling pleasant here with highs of 16 Celsius. Elsewhere, feeling a little cooler because of the additional cloud cover. And for northern Scotland, well, temperatures will begin falling away after dusk under these clear skies, but at least it's significantly drier and less windy compared with the week so far. Throughout much of southern Scotland into Northern Ireland, northern England, parts of Wales and the west, we're going to see a lot of cloud as we end the day. Some outbreaks of rain here and there, but it's very showery in nature, so it'll be on and off. Further southeast, clear skies remain, although with a keen breeze coming up from the southeast, we're again going to largely avoid frost and fog overnight. In fact, we're going to see increasingly clear skies spread across much of England and Wales overnight, but for the far southwest, some heavy rain turns up by dawn. Temperatures generally mid to high single figures, a few pockets of colder spots out of the breeze, but a bright start to the day for much of England and Wales, and increasingly southern Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing brighter skies develop. An area of thicker cloud and outbreaks of rain will move north across northern Scotland, and again we're going to see some showers across the southwest, perhaps spread into parts of Wales and Northern Ireland at times. But where we've got the brighter skies, highs of 16, 17, perhaps even 18 Celsius.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, 2 lanes are closed northbound for emergency repairs between junctions 34 and 35 near Rotherham, causing delays. In Flintshire, the A541 is closed each way off Chester Road in Mould after an accident. In Norfolk, the A47 is closed each way at North Birmingham after an accident causing queues. In Northamptonshire on the A45, there's a lane closed westbound just after Rushden Lakes, where someone's broken down, causing delays towards Wellingborough. Eurostar train services are suspended after the discovery of an unexploded World War II bomb near to Perrygarden Nor. In Wiltshire, the A342 is closed between Roud and Bromham after an accident causing queues. In Devon, the A382 is closed west of Kingstainton after an accident. In Cornwall, the A30 is closed eastbound from Totherden to Redruth after an accident. And Skybus flights between Land's End and the Isles of Scilly are on hold because of poor weather conditions. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. It's 9:30 on Friday, March the 7th, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Nana Akweer.
Good morning. Now, a migration boom. The British population will increase to over 73 million by 2035, with almost a quarter of people set to be the first-generation migrants.
Breaking news this hour, all Eurostar trains between London and Paris are cancelled after an unexploded World War II bomb is found in the French capital. Travellers are being told to stay at home.
Triple killer guilty. That's 26-year-old Carl Clifford. He was found guilty of rape in the incident where Louise Hannah and Carol Hunt were killed. Was he fueled by violent misogyny online?
And this is a big debate this morning. Toothbrushing lessons in school. Children will be given supervised toothbrushing time to improve Britain's dental health. A good idea or simply another example of the nanny state? Health Minister Stephen Kinnock explains why it's needed.
The biggest cause of 5 to 9-year-olds being admitted to hospital is to have their decaying teeth removed. And we also know there's a very strong link between deprivation and tooth decay.
Taxing times. New research: for every £4 you pay in income tax, £1 will go towards sickness benefits.
And social media ban. MPs will discuss raising the age to access things such as X and Facebook from 13 to 16. Should we stop children using the platforms completely?
Throughout my life, music has meant a great deal to me. It has that remarkable ability to bring happy memories
I love music. Royal Radio King Charles is putting out a personal Commonwealth playlist. Kylie Minogue and Bob Marley have made the final cut. But can you guess who else?
Eurovision 2025 or Nil Poir. Girl band Remember Monday have been confirmed as the act to represent the UK this time round, performing their song What the Hell Just Happened?
See, now I can't believe the amount of backlash. People say, oh, it's nanny state, it's nanny state. Listen, in the 70s, when I was a child...
Back in my day.
Back in my day, we had a school nurse, we were taught how to brush our teeth, we were taught life skills, which I think, actually, a lot of schools need to start thinking about, you know, because as you get on, you want to be teaching people mortgages, you want to be teaching things about life itself, and health was a big topic, as well as home economics, cooking. I have no problem with schools being part of that education process. I think it's very important.
I don't remember being taught how to brush my teeth in school. I think I skipped that. But that said, I think this is a good idea. And I know lots of you at home will be thinking, this is the nanny state, what the hell are you talking about?
I think so.
However, I think there's a serious problem with parents who just simply, quite frankly, aren't very good parents. And I don't think in the interim, whilst we sort that out, kids should be suffering. As I said to Stephen and Ellie, child tooth decay is the biggest reason for hospitalisations of, I think it's under 7s or 8s.
Well, they've also linked oral hygiene with brain and other issues around there. Heart health. So I don't think it's a bad thing. And actually, even good parents who spend time trying to get their kids to clean their teeth have problems. I know this as a parent myself, as a young parent, and it's interesting that a lot of people who don't have kids are saying it's nanny state. But what do you think? Send us your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get your latest news with Katie Bowen.
Ben, Nana, thank you and good morning. It's 34 minutes past 9. These are your latest headlines from the GB Newsroom. President of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has rallied European leaders, calling for nation-states to back Donald Trump in ending Ukraine's war with Russia. European leaders met in Brussels yesterday as EU nations were encouraged to boost defence spending following ongoing pressure from the US president. This is what Ursula von der Leyen had to say.
We all want a peace through strength, a just and lasting peace, but a peace from a position of strength. And this is also in the interest of President Trump, to have a peace through strength. And if he wants to achieve this, it is only possible with the support of the European Union and its member states.
Well, the US President Donald Trump has insisted that the US will not defend NATO allies who refuse to increase their spending as peace talks between the US and Ukraine are set to take place in Saudi Arabia next week.
Well, I've said that to them. I said, if you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago. And because of that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. But even now, it's not enough. It's really not enough. They should be paying more.
Elsewhere, the murders committed by triple killer Kyle Clifford show harmful online content can, quote, transform into physical harm, former Culture Secretary Baroness Nicky Morgan has said this morning. Kyle Clifford was convicted of raping his ex-girlfriend Louise Hunt before using a crossbow to kill her and her sister Hannah and a butcher's knife to kill their mother Carol. Prosecutors have revealed Kyle Clifford watched multiple Andrew Tate videos in the 24 hours leading up to that deadly attack, with a court hearing that the murders were fuelled by, quote, the violent misogyny promoted by controversial social media influencer Tate. The 26-year-old will be sentenced on all counts next Tuesday. Former Liverpool Mayor Joe Anderson and former politician Derek Hatton are among 12 people charged with bribery and misconduct relating to council contracts, Merseyside Police have said this morning. The charges come following an extensive investigation as part of Operation Aloft, connected to the awarding of commercial and business contracts from Liverpool City Council between 2010 and 2020. All those charged will appear at Preston Magistrates Court on Friday the 28th of March. And a breaking update this morning, Eurostar have said that its services between London and Paris will remain suspended for the rest of today after the discovery of an unexploded Second World War bomb in the French capital. Thousands of passengers have been disrupted this morning. Eurostar said affected passengers can exchange their ticket for free travel at a different time or date in the same travel class. It added that it sincerely apologises for the disruption and understands the inconvenience this may cause. A spokesman for the operator said the bomb was discovered during works on the tracks in the Saint-Denis area north of central Paris. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Ben and Anna.
Thank you, Katie, and good morning to you all at home. Hope you've had a great week. It's Britain's Newsroom on Friday with Ben and Nana, or as we are sometimes known, as you like to call us.
Ben, Nana, but don't worry, we're not about to split up or give you the slip. I practiced that one. I slightly got it a bit wrong, but...
Talking of bananas...
Yes, shoppers face a shortage of bananas because apparently storms have stopped ships heading over from Britain to Britain. Strong winds and heavy rain in the Pacific mean South American vessels bound for Europe were stranded at ports. Do you like bananas?
I love bananas. I think they're great. I grew up playing... I've got a mouthful now. I grew up playing tennis, which, and in most sports, they're very quick energy, delicious, they digest really quickly. I love them. You're not a fan, though,
Well, no, I used to love them. My eldest brother hated them, but I used to love them all the time until one time I was pregnant and I had a little bit of porridge on my lap. I was driving. This was many years ago. I would never do that now. It was wrong with me. Anyway, I was eating this banana and it was in my porridge. It was mixed in. And suddenly I just went... And I thought to myself, oh, my God, I feel sick. So I had to stop the car, pull over to the side of the road, then projectile vomit style. Sorry if you're eating your breakfast this morning. I do forgive me for this, but he was asking me the story. And now, if I eat a banana, I can eat it, and I think to myself, oh, it's really good.
Go on, give it a crack.
No. It's gone down really well. I feel great. And then, literally within a minute, I suddenly feel this urge, like someone's floored my throat with a foot of an accelerator or when you put your foot on the clutch. And this banana, only the banana comes out projectile style, not in the shape of a banana, obviously. It hasn't reconstituted itself in my stomach.
So what would happen if you had a bite now? By the way, I get that feeling with Sambuca. I can't drink Sambuca anymore.
Do you know, so I literally can't. Even if it's in a smoothie or anything like that, I cannot take a banana. And so, no, so for the first minute...
You're not going to do it?
No, I'm not, because it'll be on you.
We'll make good TV.
Well, if you don't mind being projectile vomit styled on.
I'm sure the ratings would go up.
Well, you'll be all right with that. It'd be like a bad scene from Little Britain.
Elsewhere, just on toothbrushing, so many comments on your say about this scheme, £11 million, about children in school are going to be taught how to brush their teeth. You and I back it, which some people are surprised about.
I back it simply because I know I have kids, and when I was at school, you had a nurse, they taught you how to clean your teeth. In fact, we had lessons about the importance of teeth and all of that.
Yeah, well, loads of comments. I mean, dozens and scores of comments have come in, and some very interesting ones. So after the break, we'll get stuck into that. But for now, the big story of the morning is this report from the Centre for Migration Control, which has found that the population in Britain will surge to over 73 million people by 2035, just 10 years, with almost a quarter being first-generation migrants.
Well, I mean, I'm a first-generation migrant. We contacted the government but heard nothing back yet. But the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, and Reform MP Rupert Lowe have already clashed on this morning on Twitter. Rupert Lowe told the Tory MP that he should have done more about migration when his party were in power after he condemned the findings.
So what does that say about our society and, I guess, the future of Britain? What will Britain look like in just 10 years? Former Immigration Minister Kevin Foster joins us now. Good morning, Kevin. Is this at your door, this situation? I mean, is it even a situation to be concerned or worthy of debate? I mean, what's your take?
Well, it's certainly something we should debate. We should always be thinking about what's the future of our country and what would it mean to have a quarter of people in the UK as people who came to the UK themselves. We're not talking about people whose parents or grandparents perhaps came as part, for example, the Windrush generation, but people who have migrated to the UK themselves. And also we've seen the other part of the report was how many people don't speak any English, and particularly relevant with some of the other issues we're talking about today, is that many communities stop women and girls from learning English partly to ensure then the men in the household are dominant over them. They can't discover what their legal rights are, go and get a job, engage with their bank and think about their own money, those sorts of things. So there's plenty of debates there around this. And also, we do need to have a debate about our economy having been reliant a lot of times on importing labour from abroad, particularly for skilled work, when if we're going to prevent this sort of thing in 10 years' time, we need to now be talking about, well, what's our skills policy? What's our training policy? And ensuring there isn't just the narrative I sometimes faced from a lot of the media, no, not from GB News, where every time there was a skills shortage, apparently that was because there wasn't a generous enough visa to fill it. Well, we need to be debating, do we have a skills policy able to fill it? And are we ensuring our own workforce, particularly those who could be working but are currently on benefits, are actually able to take up some of those roles?
Well, don't you think this is kind of our own fault? And also, it's more to do with assimilation. So when my parents came to this country, not by the Windrush, by the way, of their own accord, they had to have a set criteria to come here, certain amount of money and certain skills to help to fill. I don't think there was a shortage gap, but they got that old-fashioned thing called a visa. Do you remember those? So they did that. Now, isn't this our own fault that we are not allowing people, helping people to assimilate into this environment? Because even if you have lots of people coming from other countries, as long as they keep the prevailing culture of that place alive, and I do agree with mass migration, it was ridiculous using people from abroad to fill in shortages when we should just train our own people. But isn't this simply our own fault? We don't make sure people assimilate. We don't do anything, really. We, in fact, create multicultural little hubs where people can continue in their own way, but in this country.
Well, Nana, you're right to say that we do need to focus on how people assimilate, how people integrate into society. And actually, some coming to the UK, for example, those from Hong Kong who are British nationals overseas, assimilate relatively quickly and easily into UK culture because, of course, they see themselves as British, they generally speak English, they're generally quite highly educated. Yet in other scenarios, we see particularly those, for example, who perhaps come over in small boats or that. Again, that can be a much bigger challenge, hence why we need to deal with those problems. But a lot of this comes back to, our economic model. How do we link up the discussion about skills training with migration policy? Because, for example, my own party today is saying that it will bring in an annual cap. Well, great, but how does the rest of policy build to supporting that? I.e., what's your skills policy? What's your policy in terms of the labour market overall to reduce the actual demand for overseas? Because, as I say, we see virtually every sector will suddenly come with a plea for another visa whenever there's a problem. Well, how are we robust enough to say no to that and also make sure that we've got the labour supply we need domestically?
Kevin, you, of course, worked under Priti Patel in the Home Office. Do you ever, with respect, do you ever wake up in the morning and look at stories like these and warnings and figures like these and think, yeah, we really messed that up in government. We've got something to answer for here?
Yeah, I think, Ben, I look at the last 18 months the Conservative Party was in. For example, the skilled worker visa does actually include an ability to impose a cap. You still have to apply for a certificate of sponsorship. Certainly when the numbers started to rise, that could have been deployed. There also could have been, certainly in the last 18 months, I think some of the comments from Mr Sunak this week about basically the problem was stop the boats was the slogan, not coming up with a solution. Well, no, the problem was you didn't come up with a solution. No one really cared what the slogan was if you actually dealt with the problem. So certainly it's one of the things that looking into any future general election, as I've just touched on from the Conservative Party announcing, yes, we'll have a cap, great, OK, but you're going to need to have the whole range of policy, as will, by the way, reform. If that's the policy line, I expect they'll be going down as well. How do you wean the economy off cheap labour from abroad? How do you avoid sectors having the skills training plan of to bring people in on a visa, not to start 5-6 years before and training our own workforce? Remember, for example, we had a shortage of lorry drivers, which, by the way, lorry drivers in shortage across the whole of the developed world. Road Haulage Association argued a visa was the solution. It wasn't. The solution was actually improving training domestically.
Well, that seems really obvious. I don't know why your government didn't do that. And when they had control of legal migration, they just let it go out of control. Everything you're saying right now is perfectly logical. I'm just I think a lot of people were just very disappointed with the Conservative Party on their failure. Thank you very much, Kevin Foster. He's the former Immigration Minister.
Thanks, Kevin. Up next, is it the government's job to get children to brush their teeth? This is a big debate, a massive talker. We're going to get stuck into it next. But first, if you're in search of some winter sunshine, here's the forecast for some top European holiday destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're wondering if there's any scope for winter sun in the Mediterranean at the moment, well, Greece is your best bet. Mostly fine here, but absolutely horrendous weather across Iberia, Madeira, into the Canary Islands. Of course, we had the flash flooding a day or two ago in Gran Canaria. We've also got the risk of river flooding and flash flooding across Spain, Portugal, into the Balearics. Meanwhile, most of Italy fine away from the far south, and Greece largely fine for the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
We often ponder the state of the nation. So this story then really caught my eye.